Elegant Jade acknowledged, smiling warmly. The women reciprocated with a bow. This Miss Mu appears to be quite approachable. Sue Cloud gently nudged Sue Caution with her elbow and remarked softly. Indeed. Sue Caution smirked internally, offering a slight nod of agreement. Very well, now that you have numerous friends, there is no need to rely on your aunt any longer, Madame Lu remarked with a smile, her tone imbued with warmth. With the aunt present, how could you possibly feel bored? Elegant Jade grasped Madame Lu's hand and complimented, you merely sought an excuse to draw closer to her aunt. Her tone was innocent, revealing a playful and endearing demeanor. I know, my Wanyu is my aunt's little cotton coat. Madame Lu gently pinched Elegant Jade's chubby cheeks, lifted her head, and smiled as she said, My dear nieces, I have other matters to attend to, so I will not be able to entertain you any longer. My Wanyu is still quite young, if I have overlooked anything, I hope you will be understanding. Everyone maintained a courteous demeanor for a time. Madame Lu turned her head to signal Elegant Jade. Noticing her slight nod, she smiled and proceeded to depart. Sue Caution had been discreetly observing Elegant Jade, Madame Lu's subtle movements certainly did not escape her notice. To others, this appeared to be merely an aunt offering advice to her niece, but Sue Caution understood that, given Elegant Jade's intellect and tactics, Madame Lu could not possibly direct her on how to treat guests appropriately. What could it be? Sue Caution pondered quietly. Elegant Jade's gaze traversed the crowd, ultimately resting on Sue Cloud. With a smile, she remarked, This elder sister is truly beautiful, I am curious to know which palace she hails from. With that, she approached Sue Cloud, tilted her head, and smiled. Sue Cloud was momentarily taken aback by Elegant Jade's praise. A sense of joy filled her heart as she smiled and replied, Miss Mu is too gracious, my surname is Thursday, and I am the fifth in my family. It appears that Sister Thursday from the Prime Minister's residence is indeed the case. We are of similar age. It feels overly formal to address you as Mississippi, noticing that you are a year or two my senior. I shall refer to you as Sister, Elegant Jade remarked with a smile. Then I will accept it. Sue Cloud was, of course, quite pleased and promptly responded. I frequently heard from my aunt that Imperial Concubine often spoke of Sister Thursday's unparalleled beauty. Today, upon meeting her in person, her reputation is indeed justified. Elegant Jade took her hand and smiled warmly. Sister's visage resembles that of a flower, her nose is straight and prominent, and her nostrils are well defined, making it immediately apparent that she is a person of great fortune. The status of the Prime Minister's residence was undoubtedly significant, however, Sue Cloud, being the daughter of a concubine, had never received such praise before. Overwhelmed with excitement, her face flushed, and after several attempts to speak, she finally managed to utter, Really, truly? Certainly it is, Elegant Jade affirmed with a nod. Sue Cloud's eyes brightened as she murmured for a moment before regaining her composure. She gazed at Elegant Jade with appreciation and offered a respectful salute, stating, Thank you, Moo Moo, for your kind words. Elegant Jade promptly extended her hand to assist her, smiling as she remarked, Sister is exceedingly gracious, I am merely speaking the truth. Daughters hold good fortune in high regard. If a daughter is deemed fortunate, even if her appearance is less than appealing, she will undoubtedly attract numerous reputable families seeking her hand. Recently, Sue Caution employed a high-level tattoo to convince the elderly matron of her blessed status, thereby altering her standing in the matron's esteem. Were another young lady to make such a claim, it would likely be dismissed as a jest. However, Elegant Jade, being Madame Lu's niece and the biological sister of Consort Zhao, lends her assertions a greater degree of credibility. Although Sue Cloud's appearance was remarkable, her status as the daughter of a concubine rendered her less competitive within the Shu family. How could Elegant Jade's remark about her being a blessed person not fill Sue Cloud with joy? Just the daughter of a concubine, how fortunate can she be? Suddenly, a gentle murmur emerged. This was expressed with irony. Without glancing, Sue Caution recognized that the voice originated from Sue Harmony and her companions. Sue Cloud's expression hardened, her lips moved, and ultimately Wan Ning bowed her head. She cast another glance at Elegant Jade, and upon noticing her continued composure, she felt a sense of relief. Lily Collins noticed Sue Cloud's embarrassment, gently patted her arm, smiled, and remarked, Moi must be visiting here for the first time. There are some areas with stunning scenery. If you have time, be sure to take a look. Elegant Jade expressed her keen interest upon hearing this and remarked, then, dear sister, please tell me swiftly. Certainly. Lily Collins smiled, little sister, please take a seat here, and let big sister share with you at a leisurely pace. Very well. Elegant Jade nodded, approached the table, and took a seat. With Elegant Jade's presence, Lily Collins regained her vibrant and charming demeanor from earlier. Her actions were poised, her words were diplomatic and fitting, and she appeared both astute and adept in communication. Their discussion swiftly transitioned from the landscape to attire, accessories, and cosmetics. Although Sue Harmony felt discontent that Sue Cloud had captured Elegant Jade's attention, she concealed her feelings. She managed to maintain a forced smile and took a seat, intermittently offering compliments with a few well-chosen words. Sue Caution sat quietly beside Sue Cloud, a subtle smile gracing her lips as she listened intently, while the periphery of her vision remained focused on Elegant Jade. With Elegant Jade's haughty demeanor, she would certainly not deign to flatter Sue Cloud without cause, particularly someone she held in such little regard. Yet, why had she chosen to cultivate such a close relationship? Could it be related to Blue Wind's marriage? Sue Caution pondered. To safeguard the interests of his son, the fifth Prince Michael Wind, while upholding the dignity of the royal family, maintaining a tolerant and magnanimous demeanor, and adhering to the emperor's wishes, it was preferable to identify a weak and easily manageable marriage partner for the third prince. Consort Zhao undoubtedly sought the insights of Madame Liu and Elegant Jade to assess the characters of the three sisters. Selecting a straightforward and comprehensible individual as a daughter-in-law was certainly feasible. Feeling Elegant Jade's discerning gaze occasionally swept over Sue Caution, who found herself unable to quell her nervousness. The glance was subtle, akin to a willow flower drifting by. Had Sue Caution not been intimately acquainted with her and consistently observant, she would have been nearly undetectable. During this period, her shy and reserved demeanor, coupled with her difficulty in facing crowds, did not deter Consort Zhao from considering her as a potential choice. Sue Caution began to experience a growing sense of unease in her heart. Chapter 20, Talent Unveiled. 1. Suddenly, a melodious and gentle sound of a zither resonated through the air. Sue Caution lifted her gaze and observed that, at some point, Sue Harmony had discovered a zither and was playing it. The second madam had high hopes for Sue Harmony and had engaged a musician to instruct her in the zither several years prior. Although Sue Harmony lacked innate talent, her years of study had rendered her quite proficient. The zither's sound was melodious, clear, and pleasing to the ear. Sue Harmony's long black hair danced lightly in the breeze, her eyes were half closed, and a gentle smile graced her lips. Bathed in the soft sunlight, she appeared even more radiant. She was performing the piece Plum Blossom 3 Waves, and the corners of Sue Caution's mouth lifted slightly. As the piece concluded, Sue Harmony rose, offered a slight bow, and her large, sparkling eyes dreamily scanned the young masters present. A delicate blush crept onto her cheeks, and that bashful demeanor captivated everyone in attendance. The atmosphere fell silent, with nearly all present absorbed in Sue Harmony's music. Seeing my second sister so delicate, I didn't anticipate her to be so courageous. Elegant Jade's voice, laced with a smile, gently reached Sue Caution's ears. Sue Caution raised her head, glanced at Elegant Jade, and smiled without responding. My second sister plays the Daoqin exceptionally well, Elegant Jade continued. Indeed, the Prime Minister's daughter is as renowned as she is. Chapter 21, Talent Unveiled. 2. Fourth sister excels at playing the zither, why not perform a piece? Elegant Jade smiled warmly. I only know how to enjoy it, I will allow everyone to laugh at me. Sue Caution smiled, though her expression bore a hint of detachment. Playing the guitar? In the presence of these individuals, she felt no inclination. Fourth sister, kindly play a song. Indeed, to expand our perspectives, the surrounding ladies responded in unison. Miss, do not be so modest. Without a certain level of skill, how could you discern the mistakes within it? Graceful Cloud remarked. Su Caution furrowed her brow slightly. I can discern the shortcomings of the second sister. It is due to our mother's deep affection for the Dao Qin. In her leisure time, she often plays it while savoring tea. Having listened to it extensively, I naturally developed a keen ear. It is merely unfortunate that in my youth, I was too playful, which hindered my ability to master the Dao Qin. In her former life, she studied the Dao Qin for Blue Wind, but over time, she developed a genuine affection for the musical instrument that her mother had cherished throughout her life. Her zither, her music, would certainly not be performed for a gathering of young ladies observing the spectacle. Fourth sister, you can hear my errors. I am confident that my playing is not lacking. Could it be that you perceive my technique as inadequate and are reluctant to offer any guidance? Su Harmony stepped forward, grasping Su Caution's sleeve, her expression a blend of resentment and subtle flattery. Noticing that she refused to release her grip, Su Caution felt a surge of annoyance. This Su Harmony certainly seized every opportunity to belittle others. However, today, Su Caution was not inclined to engage with her. She gently shook Su Harmony's hand away and stated calmly, "Do not hold me accountable, I play the zither entirely at my discretion. If I encounter a kindred spirit, I could perform a piece even in the midst of a marketplace, but today." As she spoke, Su Caution observed the varied expressions on everyone's faces, and added, "I believe I should seek a place to enjoy tea and appreciate the flowers." After making her statement, she smiled at everyone, picked up her teacup, located a corner, and sat down leisurely, indifferent to the pale or green faces around her. After a moment, Graceful Cloud chuckled twice. "Haha, quite pleasant, quite pleasant. It is indeed the season for all things to thrive, a perfect time to savor tea and appreciate the blossoms." With that, he cast a glance at Su Caution in the corner of the room, before instructing everyone to depart. Due to the zither incident, Su Harmony experienced a loss of reputation. Observing Su Caution basking in the limelight, she lost all desire to remain in the Liu family mansion. After some time, she requested to return to the estate. Su Caution readily consented, and noticing the two's intention to leave, Su Cloud did not linger. She bid farewell to Madame Liu alongside them, then boarded the carriage and departed from the Liu family mansion. In the carriage, the atmosphere was so stiflingly quiet that it felt suffocating. Even with her eyes closed, Su Caution could sense the resentful gaze of Su Harmony and the doubtful gaze of Su Cloud. Suddenly, a buzz of conversation filled the air. "Behold, that is White Feather Tower. Observe the interior decor, it would be wonderful to enter and enjoy a meal there. With that attitude, you will never have an opportunity in your life." Su Caution was momentarily stirred, opened her eyes, and exclaimed, "Stop the car." Upon hearing that, the carriage came to an abrupt halt. "What's all the commotion about? Why halt the vehicle?" Su Harmony glared and turned her head to shout, "Proceed." Disregarding Su Harmony, Su Caution drew back the curtain herself and gently called out, "Wang Mama." "Fourth Miss, what can I do for you?" Mama Wang inquired with a smile. "I have been embroidering a round fan for Mother recently, and it is nearly complete. However, I have run out of purple embroidery thread. I plan to purchase some while I am at the North Market," Su Caution replied softly. "Humph. That's a good idea. Are you planning to have us wait in the car indefinitely?" Su Harmony exclaimed, rolling her eyes in annoyance. "Fourth Miss, may I ask what color thread you require?" "I will procure it for you," Wang Mama inquired, regarding Su Caution thoughtfully before speaking. Su Caution smiled and remarked, "There is no need to trouble the elderly woman with this minor issue." "What are you implying, Fourth Miss?" "This is our responsibility as servants," Wang Mama stated. "What are you all discussing? Haven't you finished yet?" Su Harmony's expression soured as she exclaimed, "If she wishes to leave, then let her leave. How much longer will you linger?" Wang Mama's expression hardened. The first madam oversaw the household duties, and Wang Mama had earned her complete trust. The general's residence afforded her a certain respect. Now, as she faced reproach from Su Harmony, she could not help but feel uneasy. Su Caution smiled and remarked, "Second sister is correct, it is not far from home. If mother is concerned, simply send more people to accompany me." Noticing that Wang Mama still had more to say, Su Caution interjected, "It's merely a matter of purchasing embroidery thread. Is there something else happening in broad daylight? Hurry up, this incessant nagging is quite bothersome." Su Harmony cast an impatient glance at Su Caution. "Wang Mama, it's merely a matter of purchasing items, it's a trivial issue, so please take care of it." Su Cloud observed that the commotion among the group was unproductive, so she smiled and added, "However, fourth sister, do remember to return home early after your shopping." "I understand." Su Caution smiled. Wang Mama regarded the masters, hesitated briefly, and then stated, "In that case, this old servant will allow Hibiscus and Purple Wonder to accompany the young lady, while I will retain a carriage." All right, please hurry and depart now that you have finished speaking. It's stifling in here." Before Mama Wang could complete her statement, Su Harmony gestured with her hands repeatedly. Disregarding Su Harmony's somber demeanor, Su Caution expressed her gratitude to Wang Mama, raised the curtain, and exited the vehicle. Observing the carriage slowly depart, a maid clad in a purple coat approached Su Caution and remarked, "Fourth Miss, in this North Market, I am familiar with several shops that offer high-quality embroidery threads. May I inquire what type of thread you desire?" The maid, known as Hibiscus, is familiar to Su Caution as well. She frequently accompanies the First Lady. Although her appearance is unremarkable, she demonstrates exceptional diligence in her duties. Su Caution glanced around and noticed Han's silent pavilion in close proximity to her location. She remarked, "There's no hurry, in addition to embroidery thread, I also wish to purchase some quality ink. Fortunately, there is a shop selling it nearby, so I will go investigate." However, after taking a few steps, Su Caution noticed Hibiscus and Purple Wonder trailing behind her. She halted and frowned, stating, "I am merely going in to take a look, you two should remain outside and wait." After speaking, he averted his gaze from the two individuals and proceeded toward Han's silent pavilion. ### Chapter 22, Young Master, 1. As Su Caution entered the Han silent pavilion, a middle-aged man clad in a black robe, slightly portly and smiling, approached to greet her. "Welcome. I am unsure of your needs, but I assure you that our pens, ink, paper, and inkstones are all authentic," he began. "Manager Su, it is a pleasure to meet you for the first time." Su Caution interjected with a smile. The middle-aged man paused, scrutinizing her with a glint of cunning in his eyes as he replied, "I am Su Jingkong. Might you be the fourth miss of the general's mansion?" Su Caution nodded, acknowledging, "Manager Su has a keen eye." "Ah, so the Dong family has come to visit. My apologies, please come in," Su Jingkong said, bowing slightly. "How is business these days?" Su Caution inquired softly, observing the store's decor. Originally a bookstore, the interior had retained its simplicity, lacking opulence yet exuding an air of neatness and elegance. Su Caution nodded in approval. "Since the opening of the White Feather Tower shop across the street 10 days ago, our business has improved. While the profits are modest, I am confident that they will continue to grow," Su Jingkong explained. "If Manager Su believes so, I have even greater faith," Su Caution replied with a smile and a nod. "Fourth Miss, you are too kind. Please, have a seat." Su Jingkong gestured for her to sit in a chair within the shop, then called out, "Lu Zi. Bring tea promptly." Yes, came a youthful voice from within. Su Jingkong smiled, adding, "This Lu Zi is our newly hired waiter. Though still young, he is quite astute." "As for the waiter, Manager Su can make his own decisions," Su Caution remarked, glancing at Hibiscus and Purple Wonder waiting outside. She lowered her voice, "Manager Su, tomorrow I will have Su Fourth deliver 100 taels of silver. Please take that silver and go directly to the Noble Orchid paper shop in Dongjiao." "Pardon?" Su Jingkong was taken aback. I have received word that the Noble Orchid Paper Shop has recently developed a new type of paper, as white as snow and faintly fragrant. It is imperative that you purchase all of this paper before it becomes available in the capital, she explained. Su Jingkong, momentarily stunned, then his eyes brightened as he asked, "Is this information from the fourth Miss reliable?" "It is assuredly reliable." A subtle smile graced Su Caution's lips. "Very well, I will ensure it is done." Su Caution observed Su Jingkong's prompt response and could not help but nod in approval. In her previous life, she had only heard Gray's child mention that Su Forth's third uncle excelled in business and was meticulous in his endeavors. Now, it appeared that the rumors were indeed accurate. The new paper from the Noble Orchid Paper Shop later became known as Noble Orchid Paper, gaining fame throughout the capital and beyond. This paper was characterized by its white, smooth texture and a subtle floral fragrance, quickly becoming favored by young ladies and madams upon its arrival in the capital. However, due to the challenges associated with its initial production, the output was limited, leading to fierce competition among young ladies and madams eager to purchase it, resulting in a shortage and a steady increase in price. Nevertheless, as the Noble Orchid Paper Shop was relatively small and its management lax, the secret of Noble Orchid paper was revealed to other paper shops within 6 months, causing prices to gradually stabilize. After providing Su Jingkong with additional details, Su Caution smiled and departed from Han Silent Pavilion. As long as Su Jingkong could acquire all the paper from the Noble Orchid Paper Shop before the official launch of Noble Orchid Paper, her Han Silent Pavilion was poised to reap substantial profits during the anticipated buying frenzy. Envisioning this, Su Caution felt as though she could see piles of silver before her, and her steps became noticeably lighter. However, immersed in her delightful reverie, she remained unaware that her every action was being observed by someone. The White Feather Tower was adorned with opulent decorations, featuring intricately carved eaves and gilded pillars. It was said that the chef of the White Feather Tower had once served in the palace, and his entire family had only left after the Holy Ancestor Emperor ascended to power. With this royal chef at the helm, the exorbitant prices of the White Feather Tower's dishes did not deter the sons of affluent families, officials, and merchants from indulging in the legendary imperial cuisine. Consequently, since its inception, all patrons of the White Feather Tower were elegantly attired, embodying wealth and nobility. Chapter 23, Young Master, 2. On the second floor of the White Feather Tower, a man clad in black, possessing a strikingly handsome and elegant figure, stood upright. Holding a white jade cup in his hand, his gaze directed downward. His appearance was as captivating as a picturesque landscape, his complexion fairer than snow. His long eyelashes cast a shadow, and at that moment, his slender, jade-like fingertips gently tapped against his knee, exuding an air of quiet nobility. After a brief moment of contemplation, he shifted his gaze toward Su Caution's poised and indifferent brows. The cold aura surrounding her seemed to set her apart from the ordinary world, yet it harmonized oddly with the chill of the environment. Although she was not a transcendent beauty, the refined aura enveloping her suggested an ethereal quality. The curtain fell, obscuring the features of the woman within. The man's gaze remained fixed, intently observing the closed curtain of the carriage. In that instant, Su Caution inside the carriage sensed a gaze that seemed to penetrate the curtain, illuminating her as if every part of her being was laid bare. With a slight frown, she closed her eyes and reopened them, sitting up once more to lift the carriage curtain and follow that gaze. Her eyes landed on an open window on the second floor of the White Feather Tower, where she beheld a handsome, elegant figure in a black brocade robe standing by the window. The curtain concealed his face, rendering it indistinct, but she could vaguely discern a pair of hands as white as jade, even more so than the white jade cup. Nevertheless, she could still sense that he was undoubtedly an elegant and noble individual, exuding an exceptional demeanor. He held the white jade cup in his hand, his eyes fixed intently upon her. The white jade cup emitted a soft, pale light, gentle yet cold, contrasting with the surrounding atmosphere, much like him. Eyes slightly narrowed, Su Caution fixed her gaze upon him, mirroring his intensity. Was there truly such a character in existence? The man, unexpectedly met with Su Caution's unwavering stare, appeared momentarily taken aback, then regarded her with astonishment. Was she genuinely so alert and perceptive? Their eyes locked, as if erecting an invisible barrier between them, and the world around them seemed to freeze. In an instant, Sukashin's expression shifted, her eyes turned as frigid as ice, her brows seemingly coated with a layer of frost. The atmosphere surrounding her became as sharp as a blade, and she harbored disdain for anyone who dared to see through her. The man was once again stunned, caught off guard by Sukashin's sudden chill. Observing her icy demeanor, he couldn't help but shake his head slightly, a laugh escaping his lips. It seemed she could hear his low, clear laughter. Sukashin was momentarily taken aback. Although she could not see his face, she was certain he was laughing, as evidenced by the slight tremor of the hand holding the white jade cup. With her brows slightly furrowed, Sukashin's eyes grew even colder. The man, undeterred by her frosty expression, abruptly lifted the white jade cup, slowly raising it toward her before tilting his wrist to take a sip of wine. With a sharp sound, Sukashin coldly lowered the curtain. Hee. The man gazed at the closed curtain, chuckling, seemingly quite pleased. Master, you're laughing? A handsome young man, hearing the laughter, quickly stepped forward, incredulous at the genuine smile on the man's face. It had been years since the master had expressed such mirth. The man nodded, retracting his smile, slightly raising his head as he finished the wine in his cup, his voice deep, leisurely moon. Master. Before he could finish, a shadowy figure landed behind him. Leisurely Moon spoke coldly, a figure clad in black and wearing a conical hat, quietly taking a seat beside him. Go investigate who the person in the carriage that just passed was, the man instructed slowly. Yes. Leisurely Moon replied immediately, his form vanishing as if he had never been there, moving silently and without a sound. Master, who do you wish to investigate? The young man asked, bewildered. The man observed a drop of wine on his fingertip, his face pale as snow, a smile gracing his lips as he spoke gently. A woman. A woman? His eyes widened in disbelief as he regarded the man, astonished. When had the master ever shown interest in women? A woman. The man set down the white jade cup, smiling and nodding in affirmation. Then, that. He stammered, taken aback by the man's smile, struggling to articulate his thoughts. The man turned, smiling as he stood before the window, gazing down at the street, which had returned to its usual bustle, yet lacked the allure that had once captivated him. The carriage and the woman had seemingly taken all the light from the street. A lingering sensation from earlier remained. The man did not turn back, instead focusing on the spot where Sukashin had just passed, contemplating her expression, the corners of his thin lips curling into a faint smile. Standing behind him, the young man remained obediently silent. Though still young, he instinctively understood what to inquire about and what to leave unasked. He was merely curious about the kind of woman who could capture the master's attention so profoundly. The room was enveloped in silence, occasionally interrupted by the wind, which caused the pearl curtains to emit a soft, pleasant jingling sound. The man toyed with the white jade cup in his hand, his fingertips rotating it, as the remaining drops of wine dripped onto his white fingertips, imparting a lustrous sheen akin to morning dew pearls. Moments later, the black figure that had departed returned, Leisurely Moon standing respectfully behind the man. Master. Have you conducted the investigation? The man inquired without turning his head. Yes. Leisurely Moon's cold voice carried a hint of stiffness. Who is she? The man sensed a subtle shift in Leisurely Moon's demeanor and raised an eyebrow slightly. You are the fourth young lady of the Prime Minister's residence, Sukashin. Leisurely Moon looked up at the man's back, his handsome, cold face still rigid. All these years, the eldest young lady of the Prime Minister's residence has been renowned for her beauty and talent, while the fourth young lady has been labeled a waste. Oh? The man was taken aback, abruptly turning his head. Yes. Your subordinate is absolutely certain. Leisurely Moon stated stiffly. However, it is indeed the fourth young lady's property. Sukashin. The man murmured, his voice low. After a moment, he slowly raised his head, his face pale as snow now adorned with a smile. Rumors are indeed unreliable. Hee. The man chuckled, then lifted his gaze to the now vanished carriage, his phoenix eyes narrowing, the corners of his lips curling into a knowing smile. You are truly no ordinary woman. After all these years bearing the title of waste, do you not feel aggrieved? Leisurely Moon was equally perplexed, unable to comprehend how the fourth young lady, long regarded as trash, could possess such intelligence. Excellent. Continue to observe her every action. The man's face, pale as snow, displayed an enigmatic smile, both elegant and captivating. As he spoke, he drew the window curtain, his voice soft and clear. Report any developments immediately. Yes. The young face suddenly turned serious as he responded. Leisurely Moon discreetly concealed herself in the shadows once more. It appears that this fourth young lady of the Prime Minister's residence will provide me with even more surprises. It seems my efforts this year were not in vain, the man remarked with a smile. His brows were finely shaped, and his complexion was as white as snow. With just a smile, he rendered all the opulence of the room insignificant. The carriage was enveloped in silence, save for the sound of the wheels grinding against the ground. After a while, voices began to filter through the carriage curtains. Sukashin opened her eyes, slowly sat up, and lifted the curtain to gaze outside. She noticed that the carriage had turned onto North Market Street and had reached the main thoroughfare. In the distance, she recognized the bustling Prosperity. The shops were closely packed, and various small stalls lined the road, showcasing rare jewels, accessories, fabrics, and the incessant calls of vendors. People filled the streets, men, women, the elderly, and children, gathered in groups, with numerous young masters and ladies among them. Whether strolling or shopping, carriages like hers passed by in a continuous flow, creating a vibrant atmosphere. After a brief glance, Sukashin averted her gaze and lowered the curtain. Even if it was prosperous, what did it matter? Her past experiences had taught her many truths. The lives of wealth and glory were mere illusions, and in death, all would fade to nothingness. Following Sukashin's action, Grace Child and the other maids in the carriage also reluctantly withdrew their gazes. Chapter 24, Retrieving the Fairy's Daughter. 1. Fourth Miss, this servant has heard that the eldest miss returned from Nanshan last night. Qingwu remarked with a smile. The eldest miss, Su's subtle charm, had been educated by various esteemed individuals since childhood, learning the zither, chess, calligraphy, painting, poetry, and the 5 elements and 8 trigrams. A few months prior, the old master had arranged for her to study the zither in Nanshan, which prevented her from attending the old lady's birthday banquet. Sukashin regarded Qingwu with indifference, remaining silent. Noticing her lack of response, Qingwu boldly continued, Our mansion's eldest miss is truly a fairy descended to earth. She is not only beautiful but also kind-hearted and talented. Compared to the other young ladies in the capital, our eldest miss is truly exceptional. Aside from the eldest and fourth young ladies, the second and fifth young ladies have shown little interest in reading or household duties since childhood. The eldest young lady believes that the two should now receive an education. Upon her return, she personally informed the old master that daughters should be educated and understand etiquette, especially those from the general's residence, so they do not fall behind. Observing Sukashin's silence, Qingwu continued her monologue. The eldest young lady wields considerable influence over the old master. Today, he personally traveled to Weishan County to invite the most renowned female teacher there to instruct at the general's residence. Such treatment is, I believe, unparalleled in our Lanzhou country. Sukashin rested her jade hands on the intricately carved white jade railing, her fingers discreetly tightening within her sleeves, as a rare faint smile graced her delicate features. This is hardly surprising. My eldest sister is both coldly intelligent and beautiful, inside and out. It is only natural that father holds her in such high regard. At that moment, a burst of laughter from a group of young ladies echoed from a distance. Sukashin gently turned her head toward the sound, spotting a young lady clad in ostentatious attire emerging from the study on the opposite side, one of them approaching her with graceful steps. In this life, Sukashin had not intended to engage with these individuals immediately, yet they persisted in their approach. There was little choice, some individuals simply thrived on creating discord. Second Miss Sue Harmony donned a pink embroidered blouse, a pearl-white silk skirt, and a pair of delicate gold hairpins adorning her bun. A coral necklace graced her neck, complementing her small oval face, long phoenix eyes, and a red mole at the center of her forehead. With rosy cheeks, her smile revealed small white teeth, rendering her quite charming. Hee, so it's second sister. Sukashin displayed a gentle smile, as if the unpleasant events of the past few days had never transpired. The small face before her, though only slightly delicate, radiated brilliantly in the sunlight. Recalling how, just days prior at the Lu Mansion banquet, Sukashin had tarnished her reputation, Sue Harmony sneered haughtily, "Humph, the illegitimate child of a harlot dares to call me second sister?" At that moment, Grace Child, standing behind Sukashin, felt her small face pale, biting her lips tightly, her red eyes glaring angrily at the woman who was humiliating her young lady. Her fingernails dug into the back of Sukashin's hand, a pain she barely registered. Sukashin sensed the intense hatred emanating from Grace Child's heart. Slightly tilting her head, she met Grace Child's gaze with warm eyes, then blinked and smiled lightly, seemingly unfazed. "What do you mean by that, second sister? If you cannot call me big sister, should I refer to you as little sister instead?" Taken aback by Sukashin's unexpected retort, Sue Harmony frowned, glaring at her from head to toe. Remembering that this girl, who had always been meek, dared to speak to her in such a manner, her dissatisfaction grew. "Sukashin, what do you mean by that? Are you intentionally provoking me?" "Intentionally provoking? The one truly seeking trouble was clearly you." A cold glimmer flashed in Sukashin's clear eyes, so swift that it was nearly imperceptible, yet her lips maintained a faint smile. "Second sister, it's getting late, my little sister still needs to visit Mayuan to pay her respects to the old lady. Please do not obstruct my path any further." Sukashin had always been perceived as a soft target. Hearing this, Sue Harmony's anger intensified, and she retorted, "You are becoming increasingly shameless. Not only did you embarrass me at the banquet, but you also dare to speak to me like this?" Within the general's residence, apart from the eldest young lady, who was treated like a treasure, the other young ladies, including the second young lady, fifth young lady, and Sukashin, were all regarded as concubines. In her previous life, Sukashin had been oblivious, never teasing Sue Harmony, so why was she always the target of mockery? Now she recognized that some individuals sought to create discord for no reason. Moreover, in her past life, her gentle demeanor had prevented others from undermining her. How could she allow such arrogance to persist in the future? Observing Sue Harmony's provocation, Sukashin's expression remained calm. She merely smiled faintly. "Second sister, your statement is incorrect. You are father's daughter, and I was also born of him. If I am a bastard, then what does that make you?" Noting her unchanging demeanor, clearly dismissive of her, Sue Harmony's anger escalated. Just as she was about to respond, a gentle and soft voice interjected, "Second sister, how can you be so rude to fourth sister?" Chapter 25, Retrieving the Fairy's Daughter, 2, Sukashin. Heard the voice, a chill sweeping down her spine. This voice, even after a century, she could never forget, Sue's subtle charm. Sukashin gradually turned her head, her icy gaze fixating on the unparalleled beauty approaching the railing. The visage is pristine and refined, the features are exquisite, the eyes are as clear as water, radiant yet retaining their softness, imbued with a sense of melancholy, as if capable of perceiving all. A petite, attractive nose, slender lips resembling cherry petals, a radiant smile on an exquisite face, and delicate cheekbones that convey a charming, enchanting appearance. She donned a delicate pale pink gauze dress, her waist gently cinched with a soft white silk ribbon. The hem of her skirt was adorned with intricate embroidery of 9 spider lilies in shimmering silver thread, creating a striking contrast against the soft pink fabric. The collar was secured diagonally with 2 silver-embroidered silk strips, over which a broader silver silk strip adorned with a cloud pattern was wrapped around the slender arms. A hint of makeup complemented the jet black hair, which cascaded loosely around the slender waist. 3,000 strands of hair were delicately pinned with crystal rose hairpins, emanating a pure fragrance. The crystal necklace adorning the neck elegantly emphasizes the delicate collarbone, while the white jade bracelet on the wrist beautifully accentuates the porcelain skin. Beneath the azure sky, one could only observe Sue's subtle charm gliding gracefully with each step, her slight smile evoking the essence of spring blossoms and the fullness of the mid-autumn moon. The surroundings resonated with harmonious melodies, as sparrows flitted about, leaving the soul feeling as though it had been partially drawn away. That is the allure of Miss Sue's subtle charm, no one can evade it. Sukashin gazed silently at the enchanting, fairy-like woman before him, a hint of sorrow flickering in his melancholic eyes. It was no surprise he had been bested by her. Her unparalleled beauty and melodious voice would render any man weak. Yet, if I had not donned a disguise mask since childhood in my previous life, would that person have loved me? Would he have treated me with such cruelty? Could it truly be that a mere layer of skin led to my misfortune in that past existence? Reflecting on the past, it was indeed the case that, in comparison to the young lady of the Prime Minister's mansion, I was truly worlds apart. Sukashin could not help but sigh. Having lived half a lifetime, I found myself merely a supporting character in this narrative, how both pitiable and amusing. Second sister, how can you speak to fourth sister in that manner? Sue's subtle charm furrowed her brow slightly as she regarded Sue Harmony, her expression replete with disapproval. Despite her knitted brows, her lovely visage retained its inherent beauty. Upon hearing Sue's subtle charm's words, Sue Harmony, who had been fierce moments earlier, instantly altered her demeanor. She quickly approached and grasped Sue's subtle charm's arm, playfully stating, "Big sister, I was merely teasing fourth sister. I understand you best, big sister. Please don't inform mother, or I will surely face punishment." Sue's subtle charm's gaze abruptly fixed on Sukashin's face as she smiled and remarked, "This matter is not for you to decide, you must inquire with fourth sister whether she is willing to forgive you. If fourth sister grants her forgiveness, I will follow suit, if not, I shall no longer concern myself with you." Humph, why should I extend an apology to this contemptible daughter? Sue Harmony glared at Sukashin, her dissatisfaction palpable. Sukashin chuckled inwardly, yet maintained a gentle smile on her face as she replied, "What are you saying, big sister? We are all sisters in this family. Second sister was merely joking with me." Sue's subtle charm nodded and smiled, saying, "Well, that's good. Second sister, please hurry and apologize to fourth sister." Sue's subtle charm remains unchanged, she is truly no different from her former self. Continuously embodying the role of a virtuous individual, she consistently demonstrates an understanding of etiquette, exuding gentleness and charm that has fostered a favorable impression of her in my mind since childhood. However, ultimately, it was this seemingly gentle and affable older sister who indirectly led me to a state of eternal despair, rendering her infinitely more detestable than the arrogant and overbearing Sue Harmony, who bullies others. In Sukashin's somber eyes, a fleeting cold glint shimmered momentarily, yet it was so swift that no one could perceive it. Sue Harmony pouted in discontent, stiffly uttering beside her, "Apologies, fourth sister." She placed particular emphasis on the words "fourth sister," her tone resembling that of someone gritting their teeth. Sukashin offered a faint smile, her expression remaining gentle. "It's all right, second sister." Upon learning that Sukashin refrained from addressing her rudeness, Sue Harmony remained silent, merely directing a fierce glare at Sukashin. Sue's subtle charm smiled and approached, gently patting Sukashin's hand as she remarked, "That's wonderful. We are all sisters in this family, so there is no need for such formality. We must be a bit more generous. Second sister, let us proceed, the master is still awaiting us. Fourth sister, you should also hurry to Plum Garden to visit the old lady, do not delay." Her words subtly defended Sue Harmony, a sentiment that Sukashin clearly understood but chose to feign ignorance. As she delicately turned the page, Sue Harmony's animosity deepened. When she encountered Sukashin, she deliberately extended her foot to tread on the hem of her skirt. Sukashin noticed the act, but feigned ignorance, proceeding to walk ahead. Believing that Su Caution was oblivious, Su Harmony smirked with self-satisfaction, eagerly anticipating the moment when Su Caution would be embarrassed in front of the entire group. However, she only heard a terrified scream from Su Caution, then Su Subtle Charm, who was beside her, fell down alongside Su Caution, and both plunged into the lake next to her. Su Harmony, who had been preparing to enjoy the spectacle, was immediately paralyzed with fear. Chapter 26, Extracting the Fairy's Daughter, 3, Big Sister. Big Sister! Su Harmony exclaimed loudly. She had been trailing behind Su Caution and Su Subtle Charm. Upon witnessing the two tumble into the water, she quickly rushed over. At that moment, Su Caution's face was smeared with mud, and her elegant attire was similarly soiled, resembling a wild duck that had recently emerged from a pond. After emerging from the water, she extended her hand to assist Su Subtle Charm in rising. Although the lake water only reached her waist, and she would be fine as long as she stood, Su Subtle Charm's costly dress was soiled with mud, and her 3,000 strands of jet-black hair were in disarray. At this moment, she had yet to regain her composure, as if she had been rendered momentarily stunned. Su Harmony was taken by surprise. Initially, her intention was merely to embarrass Su Caution in front of the crowd, but she did not anticipate involving Su Subtle Charm in this situation, leaving her so frightened that she was rendered speechless. A moment later, Su Harmony regained her composure and urgently instructed the utterly astonished maids beside her, "What are you still doing there? Quickly assist the eldest miss and fourth miss." Su Subtle Charm and Su Caution were assisted out of the lake by the maids, yet they still appeared despondent. Upon reaching the shore, Su Caution regarded Su Harmony with a look of resentment. "Second sister, I am aware that you have harbored disdain for me since childhood, but why did you also push first sister into the water? First sister has done nothing to provoke you, isn't your action excessive?" As soon as Su Caution concluded her remarks, all eyes shifted to Su Harmony. Having grown up alongside the elderly woman and maintaining a close relationship with Su Subtle Charm, she had never regarded anyone with disdain. However, this abrupt turn of events was entirely unforeseen. With a look of horror on her face, Su Harmony murmured softly, "No. Big sister, I didn't intend it that way. I merely wanted to push her. I had no idea it would result in this." She gazed at Su Subtle Charm with a flustered expression, and suddenly, as if a realization dawned upon her, she quickly pointed at Su Caution and asserted, "Big sister, how could I possibly push you into the water? It was Su Caution. It must have been her. Just moments ago, she was the one who pulled you down there." Su Caution lowered her head, her long eyelashes obscuring the emotions hidden within her eyes. "Big sister, this is entirely my fault. If I hadn't involved you, second sister wouldn't have pushed you into the water." After making that statement, she extended her hand and delicately employed her garment to remove the mud from Su Subtle Charm's attire, quietly erasing the footprints from Su Subtle Charm's skirt. At that moment, when Su Harmony deliberately stepped on her skirt, she seamlessly followed suit by stepping on Su Subtle Charm's skirt, then skillfully yanked her, resulting in both of them tumbling into the lake together. As Su Caution spoke, Su Subtle Charm's uncertain gaze flickered between Su Harmony and Su Caution. Reflecting on the moment, she had a faint impression of being pushed, but it occurred so swiftly that she could not discern who was responsible. Observing Su Subtle Charm's hesitation, Su Harmony became infuriated and pointed at Su Caution, admonishing, "You wretch, it was clearly you who did this, yet you continue to feign innocence. This is entirely your fault." As she spoke, she advanced and seized Su Caution's hand. The maids in attendance had never witnessed such rudeness from the young ladies, leaving them utterly petrified. At that moment, a commanding voice resonated from behind, "Halt, what is the cause of all this commotion?" Upon hearing the voice, everyone turned to see who was approaching. It became clear that the figure in the distance was none other than Prime Minister Suha. A wave of astonishment swept over the crowd. Suha was relatively young, his thick black hair neatly arranged in a bun. Beneath his dark hair lay a broad forehead, complemented by long, thick eyebrows. His eyes conveyed seriousness, and his mouth was perpetually closed, exuding a strict demeanor, Su Caution had seldom witnessed him smile genuinely. In Su Caution's perception, the man she referred to as father never appeared to smile at her. Su Caution gradually lowered her head, concealing the emotions that resided in the depths of her eyes. How many years had passed since she last heard Suha's voice? At that moment, Madame Shin's anxious voice echoed, "Nac Ham, what is troubling you?" As she spoke, she quickly drew Su Subtle Charm, who was soaked, to her side, meticulously examining her from head to toe, fearful that something might have befallen her cherished daughter, her eyes betraying her concern. Upon seeing the madam, Su Subtle Charm's eyes filled with tears. She appeared to have been wronged yet was striving to maintain her composure. She tugged at the hem of Ms. Tam's garment and whispered, "Mother, Noc Ham is so cold." Upon hearing this, the madam swiftly removed her fox coat and draped it over Su Subtle Charm, grasping her hand and rubbing it gently. "Oh, why are your hands so cold? Can someone tell me what has happened?" She abruptly turned her head, her gaze piercing like steel needles as she fixed her eyes on Su Caution, who was equally soaked. Suha frowned, his eyes as cold as his voice, which bore a sharpness capable of piercing through all pretense, accompanied by a trace of severity. "Ken Huin, why did Nac Ham fall into the water immediately upon his return?" At that moment, upon hearing Suha's words, the expressions of everyone shifted, their gazes converged on Su Caution. In their eyes, some reflected pity, while others displayed a sense of glee. Given the old master's disdain for the fourth miss, would she still be able to lead a fulfilling life? Su Harmony, whose complexion had been pale moments ago, immediately sought to provoke Su Caution upon the arrival of the madam. Her previously anxious heart suddenly found tranquility. She cast a sidelong glance at Su Caution before noticing the soiled garments of Su Subtle Charm. The excitement in her eyes was unmistakable. All she needed to do was sit back and enjoy the spectacle. The madam would undoubtedly impart a lesson to Su Caution. A bitter laugh welled up in Su Caution's heart. In her past life, much like today, in the eyes of those she regarded as family, she was deemed less than the dirt beneath their feet. How absurd! Now confronting them, Su Caution no longer experienced any sorrow in her heart, instead, a fierce determination ignited within her. She had come this far, in this life, she feared no one. She was eager to discover who would be the one to shatter these arrogant eggs into fragments when they clashed with the obstinate, foul stone in the septic tank. Chapter 27, Retrieving the Fairy's Daughter. 4. There was no fear on her face as Su Caution slowly raised her head. Her eyes, as clear as water, regarded Suha, and the corner of her mouth curled into a faint smile. She respectfully bowed and said, "Father, my big sister just returned today. Su Caution has caused trouble for her, and I truly feel guilty. However, I am very grateful to my big sister for saving me today." Before Su Caution concluded her remarks, her gaze shifted to Su Subtle Charm, who wore a skeptical expression. Her eyes appeared to brim with gratitude as she continued, "Everyone has always remarked that big sister resembles a fairy. Not only is she beautiful, but she also possesses a kind heart." She altered her tone, her clear eyes directed towards Su Harmony. "However, second sister, you were exceedingly careless today. If you hadn't deliberately collided with me, how could big sister have fallen into the water to rescue me? How could you act in such a manner?" Unexpectedly, Su Caution exhibited remarkable intelligence. Su Harmony was taken aback. She believed that in the presence of her father and the madam, no one would dare to speak freely, yet she still had the audacity to defend herself. Su Harmony immediately flushed and defended herself. "Father, mother, how could you Tong act in such a manner? Just now, it was clearly Su Caution, no, fourth sister who fell into the lake on her own. I cannot comprehend why she also pulled eldest sister down. Everyone witnessed it firsthand." Confronted by the formidable Su Harmony, Su Caution's gaze revealed no trace of fear, rather, her bright eyes sparkled in the sunlight, though her expression conveyed astonishment, as if she could scarcely comprehend the situation. "Second sister, how could you so effortlessly distort the truth? Father, if you doubt Jin Xian's account, you may consult eldest sister." It is well known that eldest sister embodies righteousness and would never support second sister merely due to their close relationship. Big sister, is what you said true? She turned her head to gaze at Sue's subtle charm, deftly directing the tip toward her. Sue's subtle charm was taken aback. She had not anticipated that Sue Caution would elevate her status with merely a few words. If she adhered to Sue Harmony's suggestions, it would create the impression that she was deliberately favoring Sue Harmony. Even if her father trusted her, he would still harbor some reservations in his heart. Thinking swiftly, Sue's subtle charm's expression bore a trace of reproach as she smiled at Sue Harmony. Indeed, second sister, you were rather careless. How could you strike fourth sister and fall from the railing in such a manner? Had I not just pulled fourth sister back, and if her forehead had struck the rock, what would a young lady do if her appearance were marred? As anticipated, Sue Caution concealed the chill within her gaze. In her former life, she comprehended Sue's subtle charm all too well. This woman would never forego an opportunity to present a favorable and virtuous image of herself, regardless of the situation. If she were to claim that she had pulled her into the lake, would she not be a fool? However, if it were stated that Sue's subtle charm actively rescued her, the situation would be different. Sue Harmony was raised alongside her, yet at this moment, she has become a mere stepping stone for her to achieve fame. After Sue Ha heard this, the cold expression on her face softened slightly, and she gazed at her gently. Is that so? Sue's subtle charm hesitated momentarily before nodding decisively, turning to face Sue Caution with a serious expression. I have just returned from Nam's son, and fourth sister fell into the lake. As the elder sister, how can I stand by and allow her to endure such injustice? Indeed, as soon as Sue's subtle charm spoke, Sue Ha was convinced. Throughout the years, he had consistently indulged his eldest daughter. Sue Caution observing the contented smile on Sue Ha's face, she gradually lowered her head, her eyes concealed by her eyelashes, the corners of her lips subtly curling into a cold smile. Father, you will soon discover the turmoil that this favored daughter of yours, whom you regard as a treasure, will bring. The debts of the past life must surely be settled in this one. Upon hearing Sue's subtle charm's words, the madam beside her cast a frigid glance at Sue Harmony, her eyes reflecting an unfathomable chill. Yatong, how does the second madam typically instruct you? As the young lady of the Prime Minister's residence, are you not aware of this minor rule? Today, not only did you nearly harm fourth sister, but you also soaked eldest sister's garments. Henceforth, you will personally kneel in the ancestral hall for 3 days. Without my explicit permission, you are forbidden from leaving on your own. Sue's subtle charm implored softly, Mother, the second sister is merely a bit young, which is why she has been somewhat mischievous. If you impose such a harsh punishment, I believe the fourth sister will feel quite guilty. After speaking, she regarded Sue Caution with a significant expression and smiled. The sunlight illuminated her face, radiant and untouched by the world's grime. Am I correct, fourth sister? Sue Caution smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting an intense brightness. Big sister is correct. Today is entirely my fault. If I hadn't spoken thoughtlessly, second sister wouldn't be upset with me, and consequently, big sister's skirt wouldn't have gotten wet. Second sister, we are all genuine sisters, so please don't remain angry with me, alright? Having stated that, Sue Caution appeared eager to reconcile, taking the initiative to extend her hand to Sue Harmony. Not only did Sue Caution maintain her composure, but she also adeptly managed the situation. Sue Harmony, understandably infuriated, unceremoniously pushed her hand away. Upon witnessing this, Sue Caution was taken aback, her expression one of astonishment as she retreated 2 steps. Sue Harmony was exceedingly unreasonable, causing Sue's subtle charm's beautiful eyes to dim, tinged with resentment over the iron's inability to transform into steel. Had Sue Harmony possessed a modicum of intelligence, her mother might have acquiesced to her wishes and spared her, but now. Sue Harmony felt a fleeting surge of anger, but she quickly recognized that her impulsive action of pushing Sue Caution was inappropriate. Sure enough, Sue Ha's furious voice echoed in her ears, you worthless girl. Look at what you have become? Brocade jade, see 3 days? I foresee a month, replicate 100 female positions, before I release you. After uttering this, he flicked his sleeve and departed without a backward glance. Upon receiving the news, the second wife was taken aback by Suha's decision and quickly pursued her, exclaiming, "Master, master, please do not be angry." The crowd slowly dispersed as Su Harmony's face flushed with anger. One hand rested on her hip while the other pointed accusingly at Su Caution as she reprimanded, "Su Caution, you are indeed a shameless villain." "Shameless little man? If you had not intentionally played a trick just now, how could I have found myself in this predicament?" Su Caution remained motionless, while Su Harmony was promptly restrained by the maid beside her. "Miss, please don't." Su Caution smiled faintly, a shadowy glimmer flickering in her jet-black eyes, causing Su Harmony to feel as though she were being pierced by a chilling blade. Yet, this sensation was ephemeral. Almost immediately, Su Caution's gaze returned to a state of clarity, revealing nothing further. "Enough. Cease your commotion, second sister." Su Subtle Charm stepped forward, gently restraining the somewhat unruly Su Harmony, and softly admonished her. Su Harmony remained reluctant. She glared at the composed Su Caution with animosity, yet ultimately refrained from taking any further action. "We are all sisters, and it is inevitable that conflicts may arise among us. However, we must not hold grudges overnight, nor should we harbor resentment in the future. It is essential that we maintain a harmonious relationship." Su Subtle Charm's visage was as clear as crystal, seemingly embodying a radiant beauty. "Yes, big sister." Su Caution replied with a smile, her last two words spoken softly, almost like a whisper. Observing Su Caution's serene expression, Su Subtle Charm's heart was suddenly enveloped in a sense of foreboding. She was uncertain of the reason, yet she sensed that the woman before her was somewhat altered from the Su Caution she had known previously. However, she could not articulate the nature of this change. Chapter 28, Nightmare. 1. Miss, if Madam were still alive today to witness your marriage, she would undoubtedly be overjoyed. Through the aged window, a maid of 12 or 13, her complexion pale, stood behind a woman adorned with a phoenix crown and a silk veil, also exhibiting a wan visage, softly remarked. "Indeed, I believe my mother's spirit has found solace in my marriage." The woman, clad in a crimson wedding gown, spoke with a gentle and melodious voice. She was seated before a slightly worn antique mirror, and despite the room's antiquity, her elegance remained unblemished. The phoenix bun was styled by Grace Child, her sole maid, who had adorned her head with a phoenix crown, from which pearls and jade cascaded, glimmering brilliantly. Her vibrant red wedding dress, intricately embroidered with gold thread and embellished with pearls and jade, sparkled magnificently. This phoenix crown enhanced her beauty and allure. Her previously pallid complexion was artfully concealed beneath a thick layer of powder, ensuring that from any angle, she no longer appeared frail. "Miss, you look stunning today. On your wedding night, our Third Highness will surely be entranced by you." Grace Child gazed at Su Caution in the mirror, her heartfelt praise evident in her cheerful tone. Although Su Caution wore a delicate mask, a rosy blush adorned her petite face, and her eyes sparkled with excitement. Upon hearing Grace Child's words, she shyly retorted, "You mischievous girl, when did you become such a flatterer? Once we arrive at the palace, you must refrain from speaking so ambiguously in front of others, they might deem you disrespectful and earn His Highness's disdain." "Yes, miss, this servant only dares to speak freely in your presence." "You are such a wonderful person, Third Highness will undoubtedly cherish you like a precious gem," Grace Child replied hastily. Su Caution smiled but remained silent. Grace Child continued, "Young lady, I have heard that Third Highness is handsome and refined, possessing both talent and beauty. Moreover, his character and martial prowess are exceptional. He is a rare young master in the realm. Crowned king at the age of 20, no other young master in the capital can compare. He is regarded as the foremost young master of our Lanzhou country and one of the most esteemed young masters in the world. Countless young ladies dream of marrying him. The old master has truly secured a remarkable husband for you. Young lady, do you know that all the young ladies in my household admire Third Highness?" "Yes. I am aware," Su Caution replied, gazing at her reflection in the mirror, a slight smile gracing her lips, dimples appearing on her cheeks as thoughts of the man she was to wed today filled her heart with sweetness. Outside, the sky gradually darkened, while in Grace Child's bridal chamber, red candles flickered to life. The dim light filtered through the crimson curtains, casting an ethereal glow upon her features. Succussion. Succussion's body quivered. Had one been able to observe, they would have noted the rapid flush of crimson spreading across her cheeks. Her eyes widened, a mixture of panic and a hint of joy evident. "Your Highness." Her voice was soft, melodious in its timbre. Blue Wind's voice flowed gently, yet his gaze was as frigid as ice. "Succussion, do you truly wish to marry me, to become my woman, He articulated each word deliberately, his gentle tone instilling fear in Succussion. "Ah." He lifted her effortlessly, the chill of his presence overwhelming, prompting a scream as he cast her onto the bed. Blue Wind forcefully threw her onto the mattress, restraining her. With a flick of his sleeve, the brocade quilt was sent flying. Ugh, his cold visage bore a trace of malevolence, his eyes deep and inscrutable, the corners of his crimson lips curling into a disdainful smile, disregarding the petite woman's resistance. As dawn broke, he squinted, seizing her hair and hurling her to the floor. She collapsed limply, devoid of the strength to even cough, her body marred by shameful marks. Blue Wind nonchalantly wiped her form, his lips curling into a debauched and sinister grin, carelessly discarding her like a rag doll. After dressing and washing his face, he positioned himself before her, squatting down to grasp her chin, locking eyes with her lifeless gaze. "I granted you what you desired, why do you not appreciate it? You cannot endure it, yet you wish to be my woman. Are you truly worthy? The one I love will never be you." Silent tears streamed down her fair arms, and Blue Wind frowned almost imperceptibly, emitting a cold snort, his voice devoid of emotion. "Last night, though you were somewhat lacking, you still managed to satisfy me. Inform your father that this pawn of his is worthless." He was strikingly handsome, so much so that it was blinding. Succussion could not discern his features clearly, yet she recognized the arrogance and charm in his smile, his voice as frigid as ice, yet laced with laughter. "Ha ha, this prince has never been short of women." "The third princess? Not within your reach. A foolish concubine dares to approach me? Ha ha." Chapter 29, The Perpetual Nightmare. 2. The infinite darkness enveloped her, its countless shapes manifesting in her mind, tormenting her relentlessly. Succussion abruptly awoke, cold sweat streaming down, saturating her clothes and blankets. She gasped until Grace Child approached, drew back the blue curtain, and inquired with concern, "Miss, are you all right?" Succussion instinctively gazed at the gilded bed upon which she lay. It had merely been a dream. Those dreadful calamities were behind her. In the darkness, Succussion's face retained a look of bewilderment, with a few strands of hair on her forehead dampened by cold sweat, adhering to her smooth skin. "Did you experience another nightmare, miss?" Grace Child inquired cautiously. "Would you like some water?" Succussion shook her head in disapproval. At that moment, Mac Truck entered from outside and inquired softly, "Is the fourth young lady unwell?" "Tonight, Grace Child and Mac Truck are on night duty." Succussion cast a glance at Grace Child, who promptly smiled and remarked, "It's nothing, the blanket is just a bit thick, and I'm sweating." Mac Truck was initially a second-class maid serving the elderly lady, but with her new assignment to the fourth young lady's room, she was naturally elevated to first class. Upon hearing Grace Child's remark, she smiled, then turned and exited to fetch some warm water from the stove, gently saying, "Allow me to wipe you down, young lady." Succussion nodded, and Mac Truck promptly filled the copper basin with hot water. He then took a fragrant towel soaked in the water and approached Grace Child to assist in wiping Succussion's body and changing her clothes. After changing her clothes and feeling slightly cool, Succussion's mood gradually settled. She glanced at the two maids and smiled. "There's no need to worry any longer. You both should take a rest. If anything arises, I will call for you." The following afternoon, Rain Love presented a small blue porcelain bowl, his tone slightly discontented. "Fourth miss, this is something the kitchen sent someone to deliver." They mentioned that today the master has guests and did not have time to prepare lunch for the backyard. They requested that you have some chicken soup to satisfy your hunger first. She was unlike Sue's subtle charm, who had her own kitchen and could only dine together. Upon hearing this, Sue Caution displayed no dissatisfaction, merely smiling and responding gently, "Okay." Then, she lifted the bowl, carefully removed the lid, and with a mere glance, she discerned that it was not chicken soup. Rather, it was evidently a broth diluted with excessive water. The chicken within the bowl was woefully scant, comprising only 4 fragments, a chicken head, a neck, a gizzard, and a rib, leaving no substantial portions. Even Sue Caution could not suppress a laugh upon witnessing the scene in the bowl. The regulations at the general's mansion were exceedingly stringent, and the formalities with the concubines were always meticulously observed. A few days ago, the first madam unexpectedly decided to renovate her courtyard. The current decorations in the room are all exquisite items. On the surface, it appears that the first madam does not treat her poorly at all. However, these valuable decorations are stored in the warehouse, as they must not be lost or damaged, otherwise, compensation will be required based on their value. Regarding her attire, she has repeatedly had only 2 outfits available for receiving guests. Although the madam frequently spoke of having someone create garments for her, she had never actually taken that step. In her previous existence, Madame Shen had never ventured so far, at least outwardly, she maintained the facade of a virtuous and respectable stepmother. It appeared that the last incident in which she soiled her cherished attire, resulting in Sue's subtle charm coughing for 2 days in front of everyone, had already fostered resentment within her. Now, it was evident that even the servants beneath her had begun to regard her with disdain and assert their dominance. Sue Caution regarded her with indifference and offered a faint smile. "Rain Love, you should step back first." Although Rain Love was hesitant to depart, she ultimately stepped back with reluctance. As soon as Rain Love departed, Grace Child, who had previously refrained from speaking, suddenly broke into tears. "Miss, this servant once had a disagreement with the kitchen staff. They claimed that the quotas for the other young ladies were identical, and that only 4th Miss was particular. They also mentioned that the other masters had to cover the costs for whatever they desired to eat or drink. If 4th Miss wished to dine well, she should simply learn how to manage it." "Paying for it?" Sue Caution smiled and shook her head. As the daughter of a poor concubine, she had no means to pay for the servants. The madam possessed a charming demeanor but a cruel heart. In public, she lavished her with numerous gifts, yet not a single penny was bestowed, and those items were unsellable. The servants were convinced of her financial destitution. How amusing it would be if they knew that the 4th Miss now possessed her own funds. One could only imagine their expressions. Sue Caution's bright eyes gleamed as she directed Grace Child, please retrieve the scissors." Grace Child was uncertain about her desires, yet she dutifully proceeded to pursue them, all the while his gaze remained fixed on her, his expression replete with skepticism. Sue Caution offered a faint smile. "Come here, lend me a hand." Sue Caution removed her coat, employed scissors to trim the sleeves of her inner shirt, and subsequently requested Grace Child to sew the seams. She then donned her coat, and from the outside, nothing appeared amiss. Then, she rose and composedly remarked, "I understand that today second sister was released from the ancestral temple and is now on her way to visit the old lady, correct? Come, let us visit the old lady's plum garden, to partake in the festivities." Sue Caution's smile became increasingly radiant, exuding a playful mischief. As Sue Caution exited the room, the smile on her face resembled a gentle spring breeze, for she understood that no one in the world wished to witness a tearful expression daily, and the elderly woman was no exception. Chapter 30, The Art of Tea Preparation and Performance. 1. Today, the elderly woman's mivine was remarkably lively, with waves of fragrant aromas drifting into her nostrils. The first lady sat beside the elderly woman, engaging in conversation with the second lady. Sue's subtle charm styled her 3-foot-long hair into 3 buns, one elegantly curled at the nape of her neck and secured with a jade hairpin shaped like 2 butterflies frolicking in the clouds. The remaining 2 strands cascaded loosely over her shoulders. She donned a long dress adorned with delicately embroidered light-colored flowers, complemented by a snow-white brocade robe featuring a blue serrated edge. Her movements were both poised and fluid, and her eyes sparkled with vitality. Full, crimson lips, devoid of lipstick, gently arched willow eyebrows, deep black phoenix eyes, extraordinarily beautiful, well-proportioned physique, three-tiered neck, alabaster skin, unadorned beauty without cosmetics, captivating eyes that enchant onlookers. Sue Harmony donned a long, diamond-studded rose-red gown, her head embellished with jewelry. Her ruby earrings swayed gently, and her face radiated a smile, revealing no trace of sadness or regret after a month of confinement. She had evidently regained her spirits and endeavored to amuse the elderly lady, occasionally sharing a few jokes. However, despite her efforts, the old lady's expression remained impassive, devoid of any discernible emotion. Sue Cloud, conversely, consistently regarded Sue's subtle charm with eyes brimming with envy. This entire room, at first glance, appears cheerful and harmonious, however, in reality, each individual harbors their own thoughts. At that moment, maid Luke Dow approached with a red lacquered wooden tray and respectfully arranged teacups on each table. The elderly lady maintained a daily ritual of tea consumption at a specific hour. The elderly woman lifted the cup of white jade tea from the table, took a sip, and paused in astonishment before remarking with satisfaction, "The tea brewed today is truly exquisite." Upon hearing this, Sue's subtle charm also lifted her cup and took a sip, affirming, "Today's tea boasts an excellent color and flavor, it is indeed of the highest quality." Having said that, she turned to Green Brilliant and remarked, "I have reached this point in my life, yet I have never encountered such exquisite tea. It is indeed a cherished gift from my grandmother, and I have been well instructed." In Lam Chiu country, the preparation of tea is regarded as a refined activity. It enjoys widespread popularity not only within royal courts and mansions, but also in the streets. Not to mention anything else, Miss Sue's subtle charm is a master tea maker, having been trained by a renowned expert for many years. Now that she has received accolades from her mentor, it is evident that this tea maker possesses highly advanced skills. Upon hearing Sue's subtle charm's words, everyone in the room raised their cups of tea and took a sip, after which nearly all expressed their admiration. The elderly woman smiled and gazed at Green Brilliant, who stood beside her. "Green Brilliant, your tea-making skills have remarkably advanced, I must reward you." Green Brilliant heard this, smiled, and bowed, modestly responding, "Dear lady, you flatter me excessively, I cannot accept such praise. Today's tea was not prepared by me, but by the fourth young lady." "What? This tea was crafted by Sue Caution? That foolish woman is capable of making such excellent tea?" Everyone in the room gazed in disbelief, and the madam's expression grew increasingly complex. A subtle smile appeared in the old lady's eyes. "Oh, it's Sue Caution? Allow him to enter." I had been speaking fervently all this time, yet the elderly woman simply disregarded me, while Sue Caution received effortless praise from her. Sue Harmony glared at Sue Caution, who was elegantly entering through the door, harboring such intense resentment that she wished to scorch a hole in her face. Sue Caution donned a light blue, floor-length dress adorned with delicate pink flowers, exuding elegance. The cuffs featured intricate embroidery of magnolia flowers in purple thread, enhancing the overall design. A blue silk ribbon encircled her waist, accentuating her slender figure. Her long, lustrous black hair was secured with a wooden hairpin, both exquisite and unpretentious, complementing her simple attire. Her skin was as pale as snow, her eyes as clear as water, and the corners of her mouth curved into a smile, enhancing her approachable demeanor. In terms of attire, she did not distinguish herself from the other young ladies, however, her elegant presence alone was sufficient to captivate everyone's attention, causing the other girls in the room to recede into the background. At that moment, she entered with a smile, her demeanor dignified and remarkably composed. Sue Caution was confident that after consuming the tea she prepared today, the elderly woman would never desire tea made by anyone else again. Due to Blue Wind's fondness for tea in the past, she sought to bring him joy by diligently pursuing the expertise of renowned masters in the art of tea preparation. Over the course of several years, she confidently asserted that no one could rival her proficiency. The elderly woman appeared genuinely delighted with the tea prepared by Sukashin, gazing at her with a soft expression, her smile more radiant than usual. Indeed, the tea you create is quite exceptional, but why was I unaware of it all these years? In her former life, Sukashin was aware that she and her mother were not favored by the elderly woman, prompting her to exercise caution in her words and actions. In nearly every circumstance, she remained quietly on the sidelines, akin to an unseen observer. She never engaged in intimate conversations with the old lady. At that moment, Sukashin exhibited no signs of panic and respectfully responded, reporting to the esteemed lady, "The situation is as follows. Recently, during my visit to Lingkong Temple to pray for you, I happened to observe Master Wise Wisdom and Master Celestial Sound preparing tea, from whom I gleaned some knowledge. However, due to the limited time, my skills remain insufficient, and I hope the esteemed lady will not hold this against me." Upon hearing Sukashin's words, the First Lady's expression instantly soured, and even Su's subtle charm displayed a slight frown. Just learned by stealth? Just learned by stealth and managed to create such exquisite tea? If she had received proper instruction from the outset, wouldn't she have? Master Wise Wisdom was a renowned enlightened monk and a master of the tea ceremony. He seldom departed from Lingkong Temple and even more infrequently welcomed guests. Su's subtle charm had aspired to learn the art of tea-making from the master, but fate had other plans. Upon hearing this, the haughty Su's subtle charm perceived it as nothing more than a veiled provocation. Humph! Sukashin was unperturbed by the grand lady and Su's subtle charm's decision to investigate, for that day she had visited Spirit Temple and encountered Master Wise Wisdom. However, to her knowledge, the following day the two masters had already embarked on extensive travels. Chapter 31, Tea Opera, Part 2. Observing the subdued expressions of the mother and daughter, a fleeting smile appeared in Sukashin's eyes, yet she maintained her composure as she inquired, "Excuse me, madam, may I borrow a cup of tea?" Despite her reservations, the elderly woman nodded slightly. Upon receiving the old lady's permission, Sukashin approached with a leisurely demeanor, picked up the teacup beside the old lady, gently shook it, and then lifted the lid. The elderly woman inclined her head to observe, and unexpectedly, a peony flower unfurled within the teacup from which she had just sipped. Amid the ascending steam, it exuded an ethereal quality. Having never encountered such an unusual sight, the elderly woman could not refrain from expressing her astonishment. Upon hearing the cry, even the fourth lady, who was standing nearby, felt intrigued and promptly approached to investigate. Upon witnessing the scene in the bowl, the fourth lady expressed her astonishment, remarking, "How remarkable! Fourth Miss can truly transform flowers and grass into blossoms, what a talent!" Upon hearing the words of the fourth lady, Su's subtle charm, despite her usual composure, could no longer remain seated. She abruptly rose and approached to verify with her own eyes the peony that Sukashin had summoned. Her expression instantly hardened, leaving her at a loss for words. Sukashin felt a twinge of embarrassment and spoke softly, "It's merely a small trick, I aim to bring joy to the old lady." In the past, Master Wise Wisdom could conjure a landscape of mountains and rivers, which truly inspired admiration. Regrettably, Sukashin never had the opportunity to appreciate Master Wise Wisdom's tea artistry. "Humph, a mere trick? I regret to inform you that at this moment, there is not a single individual in the entire Lanzhou kingdom capable of conjuring flowers and grass." A flicker of resentment appeared in Su's subtle charm's eyes, while Su Harmony's jealousy was unmistakably evident on her face. The elderly woman gazed at the teacup before her until the peony within it slowly faded from view. She then lifted her head, regarding Sukashin with a contemplative expression. After re-evaluating, the elderly woman suddenly sighed softly, wondering why she is increasingly unable to see through this girl. At that moment, the fourth lady's keen eyes suddenly narrowed, and she exclaimed loudly, "Oh my, fourth lady, what has happened to your sleeve? Why?" At that moment, when Sukashin lowered her hand, she observed nothing. However, when she deliberately shook the teacup, the hem of her outer robe flipped up, inevitably exposing that her sleeve was slightly shorter. After investing considerable time, Su Caution finally awaited this sentence, yet she feared that others would discover it. Consequently, she swiftly lowered her sleeves and, with an embarrassed expression, remarked, it's nothing. What do you mean, nothing? Fourth sister, it is evident that your undergarments are too short. Those clothes do not fit you properly, why do you continue to wear them? The fourth madam's daughter, known as fifth Miss Su Cloud, possessed sparkling almond-shaped eyes. At this moment, she raised her voice intentionally, as if she had just uncovered a startling secret. Upon hearing the remarks of the fourth madam and her daughter, the first madam fixed her gaze on Su Caution, her expression transforming into a chilling smile reminiscent of a razor's edge. She slowly inquired, Jin Xian, what is the situation? Despite her efforts to conceal her discontent, the rigidity in her voice was palpable to all present. Observing the First Lady's poor complexion, Su Cloud playfully winked and provocatively inquired, First Lady, have you not noticed? Fourth Sisters. Attire is so short that it is no longer wearable. How unfortunate, Fourth Sister lacks even a proper set of clothing. Should this information become public, outsiders might assume that the residents of our Prime Minister's residence are neglecting the concubine's daughter. Su Caution lowered her head, listening to the Fourth Lady and her daughter perform the duet. While she harbored a cold laughter within, her expression betrayed a sense of fear and anxiety. It is widely recognized that the First Lady prioritizes her reputation among the elder women and her peers. If she has no intention of allowing me to live in peace, then why should I concern myself with preserving her image? Regardless of her deep-seated animosity towards him, the dissemination of the concubine's cruel daughter's negative reputation would undoubtedly tarnish Prime Minister Thursday's father's standing. How could the elderly matron remain passive in such a situation? At that moment, the Fourth Lady suddenly erupted in laughter, shattering the silence in the room. She then exclaimed, Big sister, this year you won't even make a single outfit for the fourth young lady, will you? I notice that the eldest young lady has an abundance of clothes. The elderly woman heard and lifted her head to gaze at the First Lady, her eyes betraying impatience. Regardless of the First Lady's exemplary conduct, her face was as crimson as a pig's liver at that moment. Observing the Fourth Lady's insistence, Su Subtle Charm, who had been quietly standing by, promptly rose to defend her mother. The fourth concubine is unaware that mother had already expressed her intention to create some garments for the fourth sister. However, it has been quite some time, and they have yet to be delivered. I believe it must be due to the servant's negligence, causing this delay. Having said that, Su Subtle Charm turned her head to regard Su Caution, who was bowing her head, her expression ambiguous. Her voice conveyed 3 parts reproach and 7 parts pity, as if she were addressing her most cherished younger sister, yet a chill lingered in her eyes. Fourth sister, you truly are something. If you lack sufficient clothing, why not send someone to inform me? If you venture out in attire like this, aren't you causing your mother embarrassment? Do you believe your mother will lament these garments? A fleeting smile appeared in Su Caution's eyes as she curled her lips and lifted her head to gaze directly at Su Subtle Charm. There was no trace of fear on her face, and her voice carried a hint of resentment. Big Sister's teachings are indeed accurate, but Su Caution and Big Sister's physiques differ. They truly cannot wear Big Sister's old clothes. Otherwise, they would have approached her long ago. As the daughter of the Prime Minister's residence, she may be a concubine, but she is still a young lady. How can she don her older sister's discarded garments? Su Caution instinctively understood that Su Subtle Charm's intention was to prevent her from wearing her old clothes. However, he intentionally employed this remark to silence her, leaving Su Subtle Charm at a loss for words, her anger escalating. The striking eyes fixed intently on Su Caution, who feigned ignorance of the situation, igniting a sense of resentment within her. Throughout her youth, all the younger sisters in the family had addressed her with deference. Was Su Caution truly out of her mind? Su Subtle Charm glared at Su Caution, wishing she could pierce her with her gaze. She could not comprehend the drastic shift in her demeanor since returning from Nanshan. Was this smooth-talking girl, before her truly the same dull-witted, timid fourth sister she once knew? As the matriarch, despite any inner dissatisfaction, she refrained from displaying anger in front of others. Regardless of her frustrations on ordinary days, she maintained a composed demeanor and never raised her voice. This was a matter of family dignity. Being of noble birth, it was imperative for her to uphold her dignity and remain calm to exemplify her nobility. But today, Sukashin intentionally donned this short outfit. It felt like a slap in the face. How could she endure such indignity? The room fell into an unexpected silence, so profound that each individual could discern the sound of their own heartbeat. The atmosphere grew increasingly uncomfortable. Sukashin recognized that confronting the First Lady at this moment was an imprudent decision. However, in her former life, she had been satisfied with her role, ultimately finding herself merely a pawn in another's game. Thus, she resolved to take a risk. She was wagering on whether the old lady could preserve the dignity of the general's mansion. Cody Rhodes entered behind Sukashin. Upon encountering the icy stare of the First Lady, his hand clenched into a fist within his sleeve, his fingers paling from the pressure, and his entire body quivered. In contrast, Sukashin maintained her smile, exhibiting no sign of trepidation. The elderly woman gazed at the First Lady for a moment before calmly stating, "Eldest daughter-in-law, that is quite reckless." The elderly woman had never overseen the affairs of the mansion, nor had she ever reprimanded the First Lady. While it was merely a brief statement, in a certain regard, it amounted to acknowledging Sukashin's grievance. The First Madame's fury was palpable, her face flushed increasingly crimson, and her breathing quickened as she abruptly rose to her feet. Her anger was so intense that it defied description. Despite her status as the mistress of the Prime Minister's residence, the old master, the Prime Minister himself, held etiquette and decorum in high regard. The old madam was a figure who must never be slighted. The other madams were perpetually scheming in the shadows. Consequently, there were certain matters she could only tolerate. For many years, she has consistently served as the Prime Minister's First Lady, embodying the role of a principled and honorable matriarch of the Prime Minister's residence. At all times, in the presence of others, she must maintain the demeanor of a dignified and gracious stepmother. Sukashin was merely a concubine who had lost her mother at a tender age and had no one to care for her. She sought to impart a lesson to Sukashin, prompting her to recognize her own identity. There was no urgency, numerous opportunities would arise in the future. Consequently, her expression soured, and she abruptly admonished Lady Law, her trusted confidant, "Mama Lin, kneel down for me." Seeing the madam abruptly direct the spear at her without warning, Lady Law was momentarily paralyzed, while everyone else in the room stood in astonishment. Chapter 32, Transformation of Attitude. 1. In an instant, the First Lady's demeanor had reverted to its composed state. To all present, the individual before them remained the poised and dignified First Lady. She spoke with a frosty tone, admonishing Mama Lin, "I am not at ease with matters that do not concern me. It is precisely because you have served me for so many years that I entrusted this task to you. However, I have repeatedly instructed you to promptly deliver the newly sewn garments to the fourth young lady. How could you allow this to happen? Jean Xian is the fourth young lady of our Prime Minister's mansion, the daughter of the Prime Minister. How can you permit this group to delay her? Look at her attire, it is far too short and ill-fitting. By allowing her to go out in such clothing, do you intend to bring shame upon the Prime Minister's mansion? I see your intent, you clearly wish to undermine our mother-daughter relationship, so that others will mock me for being a harsh mother to her." Sukashin listened, her expression one of utmost respect, yet internally she was coldly amused. As expected of the First Madam, each word struck at the vulnerable points. Such authoritative statements could be uttered by anyone, but if spoken by another, they would lose all dignity in front of the assembly. When the First Madam articulated them, it was tantamount to placing the blame on Lady Law. Having served the First Madam for so long, she naturally grasped the underlying motives of her words. Lady Law quickly comprehended the situation, hastily kneeling and weeping, apologizing for her negligence, claiming that the garments had been completed long ago, but that she had failed to send someone to deliver them due to her carelessness, and so forth. Internally, she harbored regret. Although the first madam had ostensibly ordered the fourth miss to create the garments, Lady Law understood that the first madam was merely going through the motions. She remained incensed about the eldest miss's previous entanglement. How could she genuinely craft clothing for Su Caution? In recent days, she must have anticipated Su Caution's visit to plead for assistance, yet who could have foreseen that this issue would reach the old madam's ears? This fourth miss, while appearing gentle, was not to be underestimated. She was astute. Had she been a bit foolish and approached the first madam to seek justice, she would have only invited humiliation. Instead, she wisely took advantage of the presence of the other madams to approach the old madam, leaving the first madam with no choice but to swallow her pride. "What are you still doing there? Hurry and apologize to the fourth miss." Su's subtle charm observed Lady Law still kneeling in place and called out sharply. With her striking appearance, her words were gentle and amiable, yet to Su Caution, they sounded insincere and profoundly detestable. Su Harmony and I were not alike. They sought every means to curry favor with the First Lady, hoping for advantageous marriages in the future, but Su Caution was acutely aware that the First Lady would merely exploit each of them, using them as stepping stones for Su's subtle charm. After the performance concluded, Lady Law quickly approached and knelt to apologize to Su Caution. "I hope the fourth miss will forgive this old servant. It was due to my momentary carelessness that this misunderstanding occurred, causing the young lady distress. I will immediately send someone to bring new garments to the young lady, and I assure you they will meet your approval." Su Caution feigned surprise, hastily stepping back, gazing at the First Lady with a bewildered expression, and quietly inquired, "Mother, this matter, actually." She spoke slowly, as if she wished to advocate for Lady Law, yet the words eluded her. The elderly matron gently responded, "Fourth young lady, do not fret. With me here, should there be any deficiencies in the mansion in the future, I shall naturally instruct these indolent servants on your behalf." Su Caution expressed her profound gratitude, bowing respectfully, "Thank you, Mother, I leave everything to your discretion." However, she was acutely aware that, following today's incident, at least outwardly, no one would dare to undermine her again. The old lady regarded Su Caution for a moment, gestured for her to approach, and said kindly, "Come here, child." Upon seeing the old lady beckoning, Su Caution promptly walked over. The old lady waved to Lady Law beside her and gently remarked, "Good child, I have something for you." Lady Law comprehended the cue and soon returned with a small, exquisitely carved box. Upon opening it, they discovered it was filled with precious jewelry. Su Harmony turned her head to look, only to spot the opulent rose hairpin she had long desired to request from the old madam. It was intricately crafted, the rose blossoms transparent and sparkling, truly invaluable. She had implored the old madam for it for so long, yet received no attention, and now it was being given to Su Caution. Jealousy immediately filled her eyes, and Su Harmony glared at Su Caution, her gaze seemingly ablaze with resentment. This reaction startled Su Caution. She had not anticipated the old madam would present her with this box, and a warm feeling blossomed in her heart. The old madam's actions today clearly signified to all that she had embraced Su Caution, this granddaughter, into her affections. In that moment, Su Caution felt a genuine sense of gratitude towards the old madam. In truth, the old madam understood everything. Rather than reproaching her, she secretly supported her. Noticing the old madam's gaze filled with emotion, Su Caution respectfully knelt and bowed deeply, saying, "Thank you, old madam, your kindness will forever be etched in my heart." With this simple declaration, the old madam comprehended, and Su Caution grasped her meaning, prompting a comforting smile from the elder. Chapter 33, Modification of Attitude. 2. The First Lady's expression, which had just momentarily brightened, suddenly became rigid. This, of course, did not go unnoticed by the Fourth Lady, who could not suppress a cold laugh in her heart. Whenever the First Lady was provoked, she took delight in it. Smiling, the Fourth Lady promptly removed a pure gold phoenix hairpin from her head and delicately placed it into Su Caution's hand. "Here, this is a gift from the fourth concubine to you. Be gracious and accept it. You are now grown up, and it is not appropriate for a young lady to be without jewelry." "This, how could I possibly accept this?" Su Caution swiftly returned the phoenix hairpin to the fourth concubine. Observing this, Tu Di Nuang reinserted it and admonished, "You foolish girl, Tu Di Nuang is not a stranger, you are also the young lady of the general's mansion. Why are you being so formal?" After a series of pushes and shoves, Su Caution ultimately accepted the situation with reluctance, turned to face the first lady, and observed that her expression was a deep shade of purple with rage. This time, the first lady's ire was not aimed at Su Caution, but rather at the fourth lady. In response to the first lady's displeasure, the fourth lady remained unfazed, instead smiling even more radiantly. At this moment, following a period of turmoil, Su's subtle charm adeptly regained her composure and feigned a light cough. The first lady recognized her cue and promptly responded. She fixed her gaze on Su Caution, inhaled deeply to steady her emotions, and feigned generosity, smiling warmly, "Fourth young lady, come here. Mother has long wished to present you with a gift, and today I shall fulfill that desire." The first lady had earlier bestowed upon Su Caution a selection of seemingly valuable ornaments, which, in reality, were entirely worthless. With the old lady having spoken first and the fourth lady exerting pressure, she found herself compelled to maintain a facade. Numerous eyes were fixed on the first lady's every action, compelling her to stifle her anger. With great effort, she removed the exquisite white jade bracelets from her wrist, her expression rigid. As she placed them in Su Caution's hand. "This is a treasure from the palace of the previous dynasty, take care of it." In her former existence, Su Caution held the title of third princess consort. She immediately identified these gold and jade artifacts. Shinshur was indeed truthful. This time, the offering was genuinely invaluable. It could evoke a sense of sorrow in the first lady for some time. She felt a natural joy and smiled as though she were being indulged. "Thank you, mother." The madam's mouth contorted with rage. She intended to impart a lesson to the young girl before her, yet she managed to maintain a forced smile. "What are you thanking me for? You're such a fool." Su Harmony glared resentfully at the white jade bracelet adorning Su Caution's wrist, as if attempting to discern its hidden toxicity. The corners of her lips twisted into a derisive smile. "Fourth sister, you are indeed fortunate. This bracelet was originally meant as a dowry for eldest sister, yet today she bestowed it upon you without charge." Upon hearing this, Su Caution's expression shifted to one of horror as she swiftly attempted to remove it. "Is that so? If it is something that mother wishes to reserve for big sister, then it is undoubtedly precious. Su Caution would never presume to accept it. The gift had already been bestowed, how could the first lady allow her to remove it?" She shot a glare at Su Harmony, then turned around, adopting a gentle smile. She patted Su Caution's hand and said softly, "Silly girl, you and first sister are alike, both of you are my treasures. What is wrong with giving it to you? Accept it quickly, or else." Observing that the madam spoke one way and acted in another, Su Caution felt a profound sense of joy within her heart, and her lips repeatedly expressed, "Then thank you, mother." Su Harmony was so enraged that her eyes were crimson, while Su's subtle charm composedly averted her gaze, focusing on the lotus-shaped bronze incense burner beneath the windowsill, reflecting, "Su Harmony is, after all, the daughter of a concubine. Despite the years of instruction from the first and second madams, she still lacks proper decorum. What is the value of a jade bracelet?" Today, the elderly woman unmistakably displayed a cautionary expression towards Su. Does her mother still intend to confront her? Wouldn't that merely provide the other ladies an opportunity to mock her? As soon as Su Caution departed, Lady Law pursued her into the hallway, smiling as she remarked, "Fourth miss, the elderly lady requested that I invite you here daily to prepare tea for her. I am curious if you are available, fourth miss?" Su Caution swiftly responded, "What is Lady Law saying?" Can Hien is the granddaughter of the elderly woman. It is Can Hien's obligation to show filial piety to her. Observing Su Caution's obedience and understanding, Lady Law offered a slight smile. The old lady's endorsement was not unwarranted, she was truly an astute young woman. Waiting for the sound of everyone's footsteps to gradually fade, the elderly woman murmured, "Tuet Hong, please tell me, have I erred in these past years? Dear lady, why do you say that? Lady Law inquired gently, Tuet Hong being her maiden name. Throughout all these years, regardless of what you have done, Tuet Hong recognizes that you have labored tirelessly, all for the sake of this family. Sigh, I am aware without you articulating it. I have wronged the fourth girl over these past years. The second girl is obstinate and lacks understanding, while the fifth girl is also not a virtuous individual. It appears that only the eldest sister-in-law and the fourth girl can be depended upon now. The old lady's tone conveyed a sense of helplessness and guilt, tinged with regret. Old madam, please do not be concerned, the second young lady is merely a bit arrogant, the fifth young lady is still quite young, and the fourth young lady is quite sensible, she will certainly not take it to heart. Rest assured. Noticing the old madam's discomfort, Lady Law promptly offered her reassurance. As for the fourth girl, for all these years, I believed her to be timid and weak, incapable of asserting herself, who could have anticipated that I would one day misjudge her? The elderly woman lowered her head and sighed deeply, she has labored to conceal it for so long, had it not been for the first lady's overreach, I fear I would have remained oblivious to this aspect of her character. So calculating and patient, sigh, it appears I am truly aging. Fourth Miss has certainly undergone significant changes, yet she remains your biological granddaughter, the blood of the Shu family courses through her veins, and her bones and muscles are still intact. Lady Law remarked gently, furthermore, you still have the eldest miss. Mentioning Su's subtle charm, a wry smile crossed the old lady's face. A woman with an ethereal appearance, could this be a blessing or a curse? Observing the weary expression of the elderly woman, Lady Law gently grasped her hand and offered soothing words, Dear lady, you appear fatigued, please take a moment to rest. The elderly woman closed her eyes and softly remarked, Among all my sons and daughters-in-law, as well as my grandsons and granddaughters, no one comprehends me quite like you. Lady Law stammered, old lady, what you have said is lamentable to your servant. What a pity, you have followed me for so many years. Do you not deserve something like that? The old lady remarked. Tears brimmed in her eyes as Lady La's lips moved, rendered speechless for an extended period. Su Caution returned to her room and gently opened the intricately carved box that the elderly woman had bestowed upon her. To her surprise, she found another layer concealed beneath. As she lifted the red silk, she uncovered 10 brilliant white silver ingots. As though she had never encountered such an abundance of silver, Grace Child, standing behind her, exclaimed in astonishment, nearly at a loss for words. Su Caution, clutching the red silk in her hand, also hesitated. Any reward is insincere, cannot be sold or bestowed upon servants, only silver holds true significance. The old lady is fully aware of her performance today, yet she still discreetly offers her silver, such a marked shift in demeanor, why? Chapter 34, Malevolent Scheme 1. The madam returned to her courtyard, sat down to drink tea in silence, her expression somber throughout. Su Caution, this insufferable child, is becoming increasingly audacious. He even has the audacity to speak back to his mother. Su Harmony felt a surge of resentment at the thought and could not refrain from expressing it. The elderly woman lifted her eyelids, cast a glance at her, and the corners of her mouth turned downward, remaining silent. Second sister, how can you address fourth sister in such a manner? That is truly inappropriate. Su's subtle charm remarked with a frown. While she too believed that Su Caution required a lesson, she felt compelled to uphold the impeccable demeanor expected of a young lady in the presence of others. Su Harmony scoffed disdainfully and remarked, Big sister, previously, Su Caution was both foolish and timid, but after sustaining a blow to the head, she now appears to be speaking coherently again, and she no longer seems timid at all, she is truly unlike her former self. The first lady fixed her with a piercing gaze and inquired, Second girl, do you have any suggestions? Su Harmony observed the madam's expression and softly spoke, Mother, I believe the maid you sent should prove to be effective. The elderly woman hesitated briefly before smiling and saying, You are correct. Su Harmony rolled her eyes, a trace of coldness evident in her demeanor. While the old lady is currently shielding her, what happens if she provokes father? At that point, she remained silent, merely gazing at the madam with a radiant smile. This little girl has a remarkably flexible mind. The madam's smile deepened. However, it is indeed an excellent idea. Su Harmony was instantly filled with joy and flattery. Mother, today you gifted that girl a pair of bracelets. The grand madam smiled and instructed Lady Law, who was beside her, to retrieve a pair of phoenix-shaped jade hairpins and present them to Su Harmony. Here, for you. Su Harmony graciously accepted it and subsequently expressed her gratitude to the madam. This second girl is neither foolish nor overly intelligent. The madam nodded in approval. She required Su Harmony to be compliant, taking the initiative in all matters and performing the unsavory tasks for herself and Su's subtle charm, thereby keeping their hands free from bloodshed. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Su Harmony departed with a sense of contentment. Mother, you are too close to her. Su's subtle charm observed Su Harmony's back and remarked calmly, if this persists, I fear she will lose sight of what truly matters and become increasingly audacious. Silly girl, that's precisely what she desires. The first madam scoffed, with that envious fifth girl, this devious second girl, and that foolish third young master, you can truly distinguish yourself. Su's subtle charm understood the implication distinctly, offered a slight smile in reply, and then playfully remarked to the First Lady, Mother, isn't there still an astute and resourceful fourth sister? The madam curled her lips and remarked, it appears that this fourth girl is not lacking in intelligence, however, it is only a matter of time before she errs. Ever since Su Caution showcased a scene before the elderly woman, new garments had arrived in under a day, 4 sets for each season, spring, summer, fall, and winter. Su Caution selected a silver-red dress adorned with floral accents, the hue was vibrant, and the fabric was soft to the touch. The cotton lining of the dress was substantial, providing warmth even during winter. This demonstrates that the battle was victorious. Early in the morning, Su Cloud took Su Caution away and did not return until afternoon. Honi happened to be free, so she sat in the yard with several other maids, embroidering flowers, to pass the time. Sister Honi, your embroidery is exquisite. A young girl looked at Honi's embroidery beside her and exclaimed in astonishment. Promptly, the remaining individuals set aside their belongings, congregated, and engaged in conversation. Sister Gracechild, your skills are truly impressive. Yes, observe this swallowtail, its wings appear remarkably vibrant. Sister Gracechild, upon observing your embroidery, we truly feel disinclined to showcase our own work any longer. No, Grace's sister must teach us. Indeed. Although Gracechild served as Su Caution's personal maid, she consistently exhibited gentleness and humility, allowing the other maids to feel at ease in her presence. Very well, if you continue to make noise, I will cease teaching you. Gracechild set down the scissors, unfurled the silk, and a realistic swallow emerged. I won't dare again, I won't dare again. A young girl chuckled and remarked, if we provoke Sister Gracechild later and summon forth Brother Hua, we'll be in trouble. Upon finishing her statement, she intentionally recoiled, prompting the other girls to giggle. Very well, I observe that you all are enjoying a happy life, and you have the audacity to tease me. Gracechild blushed, feigning anger, and playfully declared, watch as I punish you. Oh my, Gracechild appears to be quite upset. Hee. Chapter 35 Malevolent Scheme, 2. As they were laughing and joking, the door was abruptly pushed open and someone entered. A young girl murmured as she lifted her head, clearly recognizing the visitor. She remarked, I thought it was someone else, it turns out to be Rain Love's sister. Rain Love often exhibits arrogance and self-righteousness. Aside from her close relationship with Gracechild, she rarely engages with the other girls, resulting in a general lack of fondness towards her among them. Rain Love, come in here. Gracechild gestured and said, we are embroidering flowers, you should join us as well. Well, my talent cannot be compared to that of your sisters. Rain Love exhibited a stark contrast to her previously subdued demeanor, she pursed her lips and offered a faint smile. Although her voice was gentle and enjoyable to hear, the smile on her face appeared somewhat rigid. What are you talking about? Everyone is simply joining in the fun. Grace Child heard her remark and promptly laughed. That concludes our discussion for today. We shall continue next time. Rain Love shook his head, turned to Grace Child, and remarked, Lady Law from the First Madam has arrived. She mentioned that the First Madam wishes to purchase additional items for our young lady, Sister Grace Child. Please go and attend to this matter. Oh? Then let us proceed. With that, he guided several young girls in following Rain Love. Upon reaching the main hall, they observed Lady Law at the courtyard door, accompanied by a group of maids, and promptly approached her. Madam Lamb. The two individuals advanced to pay their respects. Oh, you've arrived. Lady Law remarked with a hint of sarcasm, I haven't seen you in a few days. Miss Grace Child has become increasingly presentable. Please don't hold me responsible, Mama. Grace Child quickly offered a charming smile. Today, the young lady visited the fifth young lady, and we servants found ourselves with some free time, so we decided to engage in some embroidery. I inquired why there were only 1 or 2 maids in the entire yard. It appears they were indolent when the master was away, Lady Law remarked, her eyes wide with surprise. Grace Child was taken aback, glanced at Lady Law, who was glaring, and quickly smiled, saying, What are you talking about? Aren't we, the servants, planning to embroider a handkerchief for the young lady? After speaking, she retrieved a scented bag from her sleeve and placed it into Mama Lin's arms, saying, Today, Mama, thank you for your kindness. Please accept this scented bag as a token of my affection. The embroidery may not be perfect, but I hope you will not mind. Lady Law gently grasped her hand, feeling the object within the fragrant pouch, and after a moment, she smiled, We are merely servants, laboring for our master, what is so burdensome about that? As she spoke, she nestled the scented bag against her chest. Grace Child felt a twinge of sadness, she had always been frugal. This sachet and silver were a reward from the young lady, yet unexpectedly, she had given them to Mama Lin. Grace Child sighed, recognizing that the fourth young lady was generous. In Jing Yuan, there were fewer rules compared to the other masters, which had led to her becoming somewhat careless over time. The incident today was initially her fault, and now that Lady Law had caught her, she could only accept the consequences. You're exceedingly gracious. Although Grace Child believed this in her heart, she maintained a smile on her face. At that moment, Rain Love stepped forward, a smile on his face. Mama, you've worked hard, please come inside quickly, or you might tire yourself. Oh, this girl understands how to love others, Lady Law remarked before entering the house. Mama, take your time. Rain Love observed this, and promptly moved forward to raise the curtain. Everyone entered the house, and Lady Law promptly remarked, Today, the First Lady provided the young ladies and young masters with some additional items. After a brief pause, she continued, A few days ago, the First Lady learned from the second young lady that the fourth young lady is skilled in the Dao Qin, so in addition to 2 sets of clothing and some daily necessities, she also brought several music books. Thank you for your concern. When the young lady returns, I will certainly provide a report. Grace Child inclined her head slightly, gesturing for the maids to accept the items. As for this zither, it was bestowed by the second madam. Lady Law indicated the zither that Dao was holding and remarked, This zither is invaluable. These maids are rather clumsy and may inadvertently damage it if they happen to collide with it. Let Brocade Jade bring it inside. Since the party on that day, the second young lady and her companion have been as different as fire and water. Today is even more remarkable. The second lady dispatched someone to present her with a Dao Qin, akin to the sun rising in the west. Grace Child reflected on this, but maintained her smile, Then I shall have to trouble Miss Brocade Jade. After making that statement, he instructed a maid to escort Brocade Jade to the living room. Rain Love, please bring the manual inside, Lady Law suddenly remarked. Yes. Rain Love inclined slightly, then proceeded inside. Shortly after everyone had entered, a loud bang echoed through the room. Grace Child, taken aback, was about to inquire about the noise when she heard Lady Law exclaim, What happened? What a group of villains. After making that statement, he stormed in with anger. Observing this, Grace Child quickly pursued him. While there was nothing of value in the living room, causing damage was undesirable. Upon entering the living room, he observed Rain Love squatting on the floor with his head lowered. While his expression remained ambiguous, he did not appear anxious or frightened as he had when he had broken something. On the contrary, he exhibited an extraordinary sense of calm. An ebony box intricately carved with double-blossom lotus flowers tumbled to the ground, its contents, a scattering of papers resembling letters, spilled out. Grace Child furrowed her brow in confusion. Having followed Sukashin for many years, she was familiar with every object in this tranquil garden, yet she had never encountered this box before. As she pondered, Grace Child observed Brocade Jade discreetly lift several letters and murmur into Lady Ellie's ear. Despite maintaining a slightly lowered head, the self-satisfied smile at the corner of her eyes did not go unnoticed by Grace Child. What could those letters contain? Mama Lamb, this is... Grace Child was on the verge of inquiring when a sardonic voice interjected. You truly cannot assess a book by its cover. I typically perceive the fourth young lady as dignified, yet I did not anticipate, tisk tsk. Lady Law lifted her gaze, regarded Grace Child, and then instructed Brocade Jade, go, collect them all for me, ensuring that none are overlooked. Yes, Mama Lamb. Brocade Jade responded, gazing at Grace Child with delight. Mama, that is, Grace Child felt a sense of unease in her heart. She swiftly approached Mama Lamb and extended her hand to seize the letter. What are you doing? Lady Law exclaimed, raising her hand that held the letter and glaring, you intend to destroy the evidence. This servant merely wishes to understand what it is? Grace Child observed this and felt a surge of panic. Would you like to see? Lady Law lifted the letter in her hand, a smile gracing her lips. You can view it with the old lady. Then she turned to Brocade Jade and instructed, please remember to gather some of the fourth Miss's customary calligraphy and paintings, pack them meticulously for me, and proceed. With that, she pivoted and exited. As she passed Grace Child, she cast a glance and remarked, inform your young lady to prepare for her meeting with the old lady. Mama Lin. Grace Child was on the verge of pursuing him when someone grasped her wrist. Rain Love, you, Sister Grace Child, those letters. Rain Love sighed and remarked, I believe we should promptly inform the young lady regarding this issue. Yes. You will arrange for them to clean the room, and I will promptly inform the young lady. Observing Rain Love's demeanor, Grace Child felt an increased sense of concern. After speaking, she hurried toward Sue Cloud's courtyard, unaware of the cold smile playing at the corner of Rain Love's mouth. Chapter 36, Confidential Love Letter. 1. Fifth Sister, if you continue to pace back and forth like that, my head is going to spin, Sukashin remarked, rubbing her forehead. This morning, she had just completed her breakfast when Sue Cloud brought her here. Noticing her anxious demeanor, she assumed something significant had occurred. To her surprise, it was merely because she believed the embroidered sachet for Blue Wind lacked sufficient elegance. Sukashin gazed at Sue Cloud Van Nyu, visibly agitated, shaking her head. It appears that this girl truly embodies the essence of Blue Wind in her heart. Heaven is my witness, Sukashin gazed at the exquisite sachet before her, glancing left and right, convinced of its perfection without any flaws. Among all the women in the general's mansion, Sue Cloud's feminine skills were regarded as the finest. Every needle and every thread is imbued with sincerity, brimming with aspirations for a beautiful love. The couple appears remarkably lifelike, the birds soar in pairs, and the lotus flowers blossom in various forms, what is not to admire? But Sue Cloud held a different perspective. Each day, she gazed at the scented bag. Occasionally, the color of the embroidery thread was incorrect, and at other times, the stitches were uneven. She continually tugged at her hand, urging herself to devise a solution, which left Sukashin both amused and exasperated. Fourth Sister, what are your thoughts on replacing the purple here with a more vibrant color? Thursday Van Gi suddenly halted, grasped Thursday Kam Hyen's arm, and presented the wallet adorned with an image of a duck frolicking in the water before her, inquiring. this? Before Su Caution could respond, Su Cloud contemplated for a moment and then reluctantly stated, no, the 5 colors are simply too stunning, they clash with the other hues, no, no, she then resumed pacing back and forth in the room. Sigh. Su Caution massaged her slightly throbbing head and exhaled deeply. At that moment, the maid's voice echoed from outside the door, 4th Miss, 5th Miss, Miss Gracechild has arrived. Oh? Allow her to enter. Su Caution joyfully lifted her head, finally able to break free from the ocean of suffering. Upon concluding his remarks, the door swung open, and Gracechild promptly entered. Su Caution couldn't suppress a frown as she observed Gracechild, who was panting, and inquired, what has you so flustered? Before Gracechild completed her statement, she interrupted in a state of panic, Miss. It's done. Brocade, Jade and Rain Love in the Plum Garden bowed their heads and knelt silently on the ground. While the second Madam and Su Harmony maintained serious expressions, it was evident that smiles lingered in their eyes. The elderly woman sat in the chair, her complexion wan, her eyes fixed on the letter in her hand, the veins on her forehead prominently visible. Lady Law gazed anxiously at the old woman's trembling hands and gently remarked, Dear lady, please remain calm. The 4th Miss has always been well-mannered, this situation is likely a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Before Lady Law could complete her statement, a piercing voice interjected, This is what Lady Law discovered in her room, what other misunderstanding could there be? The First Lady seated beside the elderly woman had remained silent throughout, yet she endeavored to conceal the joy in her eyes. Second Madam is correct. This servant witnessed with her own eyes the removal of Brocade Jade from 4th Miss's room. Old Madam, there is no doubt about it. Lady Law cast an irritated glance at Lady Law together with Lady Law in the General's mansion. Lady Law has consistently overshadowed her over the years. She initially intended to seize this opportunity to make a meaningful contribution, but unexpectedly, Lady Law sought to intervene. This left her feeling quite uncomfortable. Old Madam, Lady Law glared at Mama Lin, the 4th Miss will be arriving shortly, this matter must be clarified. She had witnessed the growth of all the young ladies in the General's mansion and was intimately familiar with each of their personalities. Although this 4th young lady had undergone significant changes recently, she seldom ventured out and typically exhibited a disciplined demeanor. How, then, could she compose such a love letter? Contemplating this, Lady Law naturally regarded Mama Lin with a disapproving expression. At that moment, only the gentle voice of a maid calling from outside the door could be heard, Old Madam, the 4th and 5th Misses have arrived. Next came the sound of fabric rustling as clothes brushed against one another, followed by the lifting of the curtains, which unveiled Su Caution and Su Cloud. To the gaze of all present, Grandmother, Su Caution observed the elderly woman's somber expression and gently called out. Experience it firsthand. Su Caution gathered the letters that the elderly woman had discarded on the ground and examined them closely. As she made her way to the plum garden, she had been pondering the nature of those letters that prompted Lady Law to hastily deliver them to the old woman. Now that she had observed them, her anxious heart found solace once more. These letters were all composed by Su Caution to an individual named Cloud Wind. Alongside her infatuation with him, there were also reflections on their time spent together. The language employed could be described as audacious and unrestrained. Su Caution harbored a sneer in her heart. In this General's mansion, who else could replicate her handwriting and discover these evidences without leaving a trace in her room? Who but Su Harmony could be responsible? Presenting her with a guitar? Only a foolish excuse could have originated from such a mind. In her former life, although she chose not to engage in the romantic rivalries among the concubines within the palace, it did not imply a lack of awareness. On the contrary, as the primary wife who received little affection from her husband, she frequently found herself the target of disputes instigated by those concubines, who would argue for hours over trivialities, seizing the opportunity to deride and belittle her. The underlying conflicts were even more intricate, with their tactics and schemes far surpassing the imagination of those in the Prime Minister's residence. Chapter 37, Confidential Love Letter, 2, Not bad, it's written exactly like this. Su Caution remarked, touching her chin. Especially this Nguyen character, observe the strokes and the handwriting, it mirrors my own precisely. As soon as she concluded her statement, an eerie silence enveloped the surroundings. Even Brocade Jade and Lady La, who were kneeling on the ground, lifted their heads, gazing at Su Caution with expressions of confusion. Could it be that this fourth miss was so overwhelmed that her mind had faltered? Shouldn't she be weeping inconsolably and denying the allegations at this moment? Why was she calmly offering commentary as if this matter bore no relevance to her? In heaven, I wish to be birds with wings together, on earth, I wish to be trees with branches together. Heaven and earth are vast, yet they will ultimately reach an end, this enmity is boundless. Su Caution shook her head. That's a fine poem, but regrettably, it's a copy. After a brief pause, amidst the astonished gazes of those present, she continued, however, upon reflection, although I typically enjoy reciting poetry and composing prose, why do I find myself drawn to such a trivial poem? Indeed, imitation is valid. What nonsense are you spouting? Su Harmony exclaimed, taking a decisive step forward and pointing at Su Caution. Second sister, please don't be upset, Su Caution replied innocently, I was merely praising the author of these letters. After searching your room, who else but you would so brazenly write these letters? Su Harmony turned to the elderly matriarch, grandmother, do not heed her absurdities. While I am reluctant to believe that fourth sister could engage in such disgraceful behavior, these letters do indeed resemble her usual handwriting. I didn't anticipate that second sister would scrutinize them so closely, Su Caution remarked nonchalantly. Su Harmony was taken aback, that's because grandmother had already compared them before I arrived. Oh, Su Caution drawled, nodding repeatedly, so that's the case. Fourth sister, after listening for a while, Su Cloud began to piece together the situation and reached out to tug at Su Caution's sleeve, expressing her concern. During their last visit to the Lu Mansion banquet, Su Caution had undermined Su Harmony's reputation, which had somewhat alleviated Su Cloud's frustrations, leading her to be more amiable towards Su Caution thereafter. Do not worry, everything is fine, Su Caution reassured her, smiling. Observing the others engaged in circular discussions, the second madam rose, regarding Su Caution with an expression that seemed to convey, fourth young lady, what do you wish second concubine to say about you? Upon reaching this point, she sighed heavily, if you already have someone in your heart, then writing a few love poems is acceptable. We are family, we can resolve this privately. Why are you so perplexed? Sigh, where is the confusion? Su Caution blinked her dark eyes, feigning innocence. Internally, she scoffed, realizing that the first madam, second madam, and Su Harmony had invested considerable effort, and in addition to the love poems, they might have concocted tales of infidelity. Initially expecting Su Caution to be intimidated, the second madam was taken aback by her demeanor, left speechless with her mouth agape for an extended moment. Second auntie, please tell me, Su Caution's voice was clear, imbued with the playful charm of a young girl addressing her elders, which was typically melodious, but now sent shivers down the second madam's spine, stirring unease within her. Su Harmony had anticipated that Su Caution would face misfortune and felt a sense of satisfaction. However, witnessing Su Caution's unperturbed expression, her smile faded. At that moment, the first madam exchanged a glance with Su Harmony, signaling her understanding. After searching your room, who else but you is so shameless? Enough. Have you had your fill? The old lady suddenly struck the low table beside her chair, commanding silence. The room fell quiet. After a brief pause, the old lady regained her composure, surveying everyone before finally fixing her solemn gaze on Su Caution. Fourth young lady, what is your perspective on these letters? Grandmother, the letters are well composed, but it is unfortunate that you did not pen them. Su Caution met the old lady's stern gaze with unwavering confidence, her dark eyes gleaming. The old lady replied calmly, oh? Then how do you account for this handwriting? Su Caution responded with poise, Grandmother, you are aware that handwriting can be imitated, are you suggesting that someone is attempting to harm you? The old lady coughed. As soon as she finished speaking, Brocade Jade knelt down, crawling forward a few steps, and exclaimed, "Old lady, I assure you, that box was indeed accidentally knocked over by this servant. Even if I had the audacity of the heavens, I would never dare to frame my master." Despite her apparent distress, Brocade Jade's voice was resolute, each word articulated clearly. At that moment, Rain Love also knelt and said, "Old madam, I was present at that time, although the young lady treated me kindly, I have no desire to lie." Lady Law stepped forward as well. "Old madam, I can attest that what they have said is entirely true.